Greetings, Earthlings. I am a Snyderbot. How are you?
And that was the response from all the humans on the panels. The rest of us are bots, every last one of us.
Well, good morning, everybody. How you doing? And welcome to Midnight's Edge in the morning. Do not adjust your TV sets or computers or phones. Andre is back. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. And did a great job keeping the fort in my mostly absence.
You're such a liar.
I was there a little bit like last Friday, and I felt I was there in spirit from the airport on Monday, messaging you behind the scenes while you had Chuck Dixon on.
Monday, oh, he was. I was bummed out that I couldn't make that show because I'm a huge Chuck Dixon fan, but I was with Dad off site listening in on the earbud. But Tom, you're holding on for dear life, and good job, buddy.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. I told these guys in the background, I felt like I was bailing out a sinking ship with a bucket. Mexican Iron Man's in the house, though, today. How you doing, friend?
Arriba, this is my first day of trying to have a normal, balanced work, life, and YouTube schedule. I've had 3 dual shots of espresso. I am wired like a Mexican jumping bean in the morning.
At least somebody is.
I'm going to open up my iced coffee right now, so that will be good to go.
Me, on the other hand, I'm sure I'll crack into a soda here sooner or later. But good morning, everybody in the chat. Glad to have you here. I see some of our wrenches are here already and some of our regulars. Hit that like button. Please share the link because we know, and this is not even a joke, and we're not just saying this to toot our own horns. There is not a day that goes by, a show that goes by, where somebody doesn't come in halfway through, near the end of the show. I never got an alert. YouTube didn't alert me. YouTube sucks because I didn't get an alert. Yes, they will not tell you we're live.
And those people should be grateful because at the very least they weren't unsubscribed. And I don't know exactly how many are.
Sometimes they are, Andre,
every single day.
Because what'll happen is some people will say either they'll find my link on Twitter or from the Facebook group. There's one suggestion I will say is always follow like us on Twitter. Speaking of, I haven't even shared it yet this morning. That reminds me. But yeah, the other side of it is there's people who have been unsubscribed, but it just so happens that we pop up on their main page because they do actually watch us. So even though they've been unsubscribed, they notice we're live. So I've had that story a couple times now too, Andre. We've even had members unsubscribed. So yeah, please always check just about every time you watch any channel, not just ours, but any channel that you love, to make sure they haven't unsubscribed you. The other thing they love to do is uncheck that little bell.
Yes, I think that's the bigger problem. I have noticed that there's some channels that I subscribe to that I swore I took the time to click all notifications, and then I look again and it says whatever it says, private or personalized or whatever.
Yeah, it's funny though because as I saw pointed out in the chat here, YouTube's algorithms is supposed to only unsubscribe bots, but it would appear that they have a hard time distinguishing bots from real people. And as we shall see as we get into the story today, they might not be the only ones.
Uh-oh.
Well, maybe. I mean, it's funny. We're going to get into this, but let's see here. Natasha says, I got unsubbed and still can't get back in. Embarrassing. Still need to sort it out. Really? Wow. That's crazy. So yeah, if we can't really do much, but if you let us know, then that's all we can really do is just keep telling YouTube this is what's happening. So just keep subscribing, folks. That's the best we can tell you for now. Otherwise, just keep up with us on social media and all that good stuff. But we got some super chats here, like one from Dearest. I can't see what it is this morning, but let me see if I can go back far enough. No, I cannot. But thank you for that, Dearest. Then we had Dr. Long Dongler, who's been a member for 9 months. Thank you so much. And then let's see what else we had here. We had the Walt Man here, Andre. If you want to grab this one real quick.
Yeah, certainly. And he says for $9.99, thank you so much. Personally, it feels like they're strumming up drama to get people to the site, since a lot of the digital outlets are laying off people now. This is obvious in reference to Rolling Stone magazine, especially since YouTubers are doing their jobs, but better. And I would concur with this. I do think that many YouTubers are doing better than actual establishment entertainment journalists, but that's just me.
Then again, this might be a bit of an interesting conversation today. We'll see. Especially, I want to see if Script Doctor shows up. Because funnily enough, just before this article dropped, Script and I were just talking about this very subject the other night, out of nowhere-ish. Well, not out of nowhere because of the whole Amber Ezra situation, but I had mentioned some things that were actually talked about in this article. So it's kind of interesting that the stuff's coming out now. So we'll get into all that. That's the talk of the town right now, I guess. Considering there's not much else to talk about. Zontar says, for getting my money's worth on Monday, here's a tip. Well, thank you, Zontar, even if it is just the tip.
Boom, bam.
Hey, actually, what am I doing that for?
Dr. Longdongler has a thumbs up super sticker for $1.99 British pound sterling. Oh, look, Tom, it's his real money from the Queen.
The Queen's money.
It's the Queen's money.
Indeed. And it is also a thumbs up. Thank you for that, Dr. Longdongler. And then we had Archangel G in the house. Says the accusations of the box always seem like an excuse to me. I don't think they ever affect the overall trend as much as others do. Yeah, there's that aspect to it too.
They certainly did not do in this particular case, but we will get into that. I mean, there are other times when Twitter bots absolutely will influence a trend, but those are mostly for politically left-wing causes. In terms of getting the Snyder Cut greenlit, not so much. Not so much. But we'll get into that.
Yes, indeed. And then Dash Attack says Zack has been a stealth target of cancel culture for years. His gritty movies run counter to the message. I'm really pumped for Rebel Moon and hope it becomes Netflix Star Wars like they hope. Does it really run against the message though? We'll get into that. Oh. I know there's okay, so like up front, I know this is a hot topic right now. So we'll get into that, but Snyder fans in the house, just be calm when we get to this conversation.
Wait, I'm one of them.
I know.
Oh, that was okay. I didn't catch that. That's your way of subtly telling me that. Okay, so that was like you petting Mikey on his little hair. And
well, not just you, but there are a few out there. But surprisingly, when we talked about this last night, I thought we were going to get a bunch of crap in the chat, but no.
I heard everything you guys said last night. Later,
I'm glad you did.
On the replay, every single
and
word.
We picked on you.
Every single word, Andre.
Well, I didn't, so you're gonna have to run me through it.
Okay.
But I can imagine. I mean, for all the benefits of all the good things you can say about Zack Snyder, he did cast Amber Heard. He cast Ezra Miller.
Ezra Miller, Frydorg.
Although, in his defense, he did not know how crazy at least 2 out of 3 of them were at the time when he cast them.
I did kind of come up with what you would probably have said to this too, so we'll see how close that is. But Mike and Ayers says, if we're talking bots, look at empty theaters compared to woke film defenders. So there's that too. Dark Winter said, any word from Scotty, Tom? I think I figured this out this time. Which Scotty?
Scotty Mendelson. In that case, no. Forbes already.
He was talking about something else. Yeah.
You see, Forbes, they already wrote an article in which they question the findings made by the Rolling Stone magazine.
Really?
So they dispute the findings.
Interesting. No, because Scotty wrote something the other day. I think it was about either Thor or Lightyear again, because he can't get over that. But
no, of course. I mean, those are woke movies failing, and of course that has to be explained away. Yeah. I mean, he still brings up The Last Jedi every chance he can.
Yeah, because we talked about, I think, Sunday night on Culture Stream, if I remember right, and we were making fun of that he just got to find a way. Master Clockwork says, do most people even know you can pay Twitter to be on the top of trending? They do disclose this information, but it goes to show it's artificial. Yes. A lot of people don't know this. You're right, Master Clockwork, but you can artificially make shit trend very easily. So yeah, so let's get into this news today. What should we? How should we start this? The basic version of it is because the Rolling Stone article is very long, but it kind of gets into out of nowhere for some reason they've decided to do this semi-hit piece.
There's a short variety version.
Go ahead and grab it if you want to.
All right, I'll do it right now.
Semi-hit piece on Zack Snyder and the Snyder fans. And in it does not paint the best of light, best picture of Zack Snyder. So we're gonna kind of go into this here. I guess this covers some of what was in the article. It looks like.
Yep.
So let's see here. Zack Snyder mobilized the Snyder fandom with a single tweet that reads, "Snyder Cut on Digital Tuesday, July 19th, marks the film's official digital release date." Snyder's tweet about the film digital debut was accompanied by a black and white image of film reels, the same image he posted to social media years ago to signify to fans that the Snyder Cut was real. Snyder's tweet and the digital release of the Snyder Cut comes less than a day after. What are you doing there?
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Now I don't know where I was.
Less than a day after an exclusive in blue. Go to the blue.
Okay. Claim that the bots were used on social media to fuel the Snyder Cut army. Rolling Stone obtained 2 reports commissioned by Warner Media that revealed at least 13% of the accounts that took part in the conversation about Snyder Cut were deemed fake, well above the 3 to 5% that cyber experts.
That is significant. That is
trending.
Let's see what they say about this, but keep that in mind.
Yeah,
Warner Media were the ones that found this. Keep that in mind.
Calls for the Snyder Cut erupted after the director left the original production of the film due to a family tragedy, and Warner Brothers brought in Joss Whedon to overhaul Snyder's dark tone and oversee reshoots.
Yeah, that's a lie and rewriting history.
I was just going to say, yeah, see, that's the thing is, anyway, Whedon's Justice League bombed with critics at the box office, leading Snyder's fans to demand that Warner Brothers release the director's intended version. The Snyder Cut movement became synonymous with toxic fandom, as some members would bully any executive that stood in the way of getting the film released. One fan created
no word of the hundreds of thousands gathered by these toxic fans for very worthwhile causes. Well, one word of that.
Not really. Let's see here. Some member would bully any executive who stood in the way of getting the film released. One fan created an image alarmed Warner Brother Media bosses by showing the decapitated heads of producer Jeff Johns, DC president, and Walter Hamada, and former Warner Brothers Pictures Group chairman Toby Emmerich. The Snyder Cut was eventually released on HBO Max in March 2021. More than 20 anonymous sources that were involved in the making of both Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League told Rolling Stone that they believe Zack Snyder was working to manipulate the ongoing campaign. Snyder claims that if anyone was pulling strings on the social media fervor, it was Warner Brothers trying to leverage my fan base to bolster subscribers to their streaming service. Okay. Well, here's the thing I'm going to say about this whole thing. I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle, but let's keep going. Do they break any more down of that than this? No, that's it. Oh, fuck. There was a hell of a lot more in that article than that.
Well, I know, but you wanted the short version. Do you want me to
this is the short version. Like this is the
do you
want me to bring up the
preview version?
Everything that we need to completely discredit the findings are right here.
And how do you feel that they're discredited? Because I kind of disagree with you on that, Andre, but all right.
Would you guys want to see the one that says Zack Snyder response to Justice League hit piece, "If I die, avenge me" quote? That was last night.
Because honestly, I think there's a lot of truth to this article. I think that like I said, it lies.
Oh, I don't dispute that there were some bots.
No, I think there was a lot of. It's not just the bots. It's how it's not just about the bots, though. See, that's the thing. I think that karma is coming back around a little bit. People seem to forget how Zack Snyder threw the entire fandom under the fucking bus.
I don't forget. I remember I was there.
And some of these stories about Zack, I heard back in the day. But he was gone, so it didn't fucking matter until he came back. And like I said, Script Doctor and I were having this very conversation the other day before this article even came out. And we talked about some of these things. So again, I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle. Now, the bot thing, they should have just left it the fuck out. Because it doesn't really matter. It washes itself out at the end. Because that's the same thing with all these other bot things they talk about. Unless we're talking about a situation like where it matters, like to them with Twitter, they're going to lie about it any fucking way. So what difference does it make? But no, like there's other accusations in here that clearly shows that Zack did influence a lot of people with his words and the way he was doing things.
Yeah, that he was there behind the scenes rooting for his movie that was taken away to be released. I don't doubt that for a second. I also don't see the problem with it. I mean, this is exactly the same thing that David Ayer has been doing about his cut of the Suicide Squad. I mean, he's been marketing the heck out of that. Any chance he gets on Twitter, wherever, any chance he gets, he brings up how much he would like to see his cut of the Suicide Squad released, and he's trying to bolster fan support for it. So I don't dispute that. I just don't see the problem with it.
Well, the problem with it was because there was one point where the article was 100% accurate, because I remember being there, and that was where this group of fans went after things like Godzilla versus Kong for no good fucking reason, other than it was because it was on HBO Max. They would come up with like the most asinine reasons to go after things. At sometimes I would just be like, why?
Yeah, there you have some crazies. No one is disputing that. What has that to do with anything in the bigger scheme of things?
Because the article isn't completely wrong. That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's been a lot of people who are like, oh, this article this and this article that. But if you've dealt with some of the Snyder fans and seen some of the stuff they do, that's what it is. They're not 100% wrong. Like they are,
and they don't. And I'm not saying that they are, but again, what I don't see is the problem with those things where they may have a point. Like I don't see them as a big issue.
I guess we're seeing two completely different sides of the coin here. I guess so.
Probably.
Anyway, because
I'm a Snyder fan. I'm not sure which one I'm being described about being. I'm a little lost. Because I was pretty fanatical in those days.
Because last night, my thoughts for you was just to remind everybody that there was a reason Zack got booted and had less to do with his family than it did with the fact that the first two movies didn't perform and they lost the general audience. People seem to forget that. And yes, the Snyder fans are a very loud group of people, but they're not as big as you'd think. And this is the thing that I was talking to Script Doctor the other night about. That I was hearing through Warner Brothers is that, yes, was the Snyder cut a success to a point, but did it really gain them what they thought they would get out of it? No. In the grand scheme of things, it was a little blip on HBO Max's fucking grand scheme of the entire thing. They had like, what was it, 2 to 4 million people watching that first weekend.
It was one of the blips that took them to where they are.
It is, but at this point right now, that the fact that this is
it was a blip that came at a relatively low cost to them. Because remember,
was it though? This is where I was talking about with people and hearing things that there's a lot of people who still don't feel they made back any of that money, right? This video is not going to sell $80 million worth of fucking videos. It just isn't. People may think it will, but it's not as big as thing as people think it is. That's what I'm trying to get at.
If you mean in terms of financial success, you're correct. If you mean in terms of audience, like in terms of population, that is correct. Where I'm going to come back and say, but it was a win for fandoms that wanted to see this. It was a win for in a time where fandoms and fans were being shit on, in an age where studios didn't give a rat's fuck. the fans actually, and you're right. I'm going to say on behalf of Snyder Nation, not that I can do this, but I'm going to do it anyways. We are absolutely a minority segment of the entire DC universe of fandom. By far. I've had this long talk with Clauby multiple times. I know that we're a minority, but you know what? We're a vocal minority, and we wanted to see this, and the studio listened. So what I'm going to say is two things. One is that it was a victory for fans who wanted to see something that they wanted, and finally we got it. And number two is that for a studio like HBO that was trying to launch its streaming service, we came along for them at the right time with something that they already spent most of their money on and had to spend very little money on. And regardless of whether it made a huge amount of money back as a traditional blockbuster, it fulfilled a vital and important role in what we know as HBO Max today.
You just nailed it on the head. The reason why we got this article, you want to know why? Because I talked to a couple people last night. We got this article because of what you just said. You got what you wanted, but you're not stopping. That's why Warner put this shit out there. That's why Snyder's getting this treatment right now, because you guys got your movie, but you're continuing to go. It just won't stop. The bombardment for some reason until you get what you think you're going to get.
Yeah. You're right. We got.
That's why you guys are getting this article right now.
Yes, we got our little Snyderverse, little rabbit chicken tortilla farm, and we want more Snyderverse rabbit chicken tortillas. And we want them now.
And that's unfortunately where
we
I brought in
now,
Andre's point.
And here's how I don't have a good quality argument, but like Script and I have gone back and forth, and Culture and I have gone back and forth on these movies. And I don't really have a good, I can't have the conversation we normally have on Midnight Sidge After Dark about why I'm such a Snyder fanatic, except that I am. But at some point in the discussion, I know that my argument at some point falls too. But I still want it, and I want it now, and I want it tomorrow. Wham now.
Yeah, and you know what? Ain't nothing wrong with that. I mean, I want Dredd 2. I want Dredd 3. I want a Dredd series. I'm not going to get it, but that doesn't preclude me from wanting it.
Yeah.
This is the exact same thing. And to me, this goes back to what I think is a real issue here. That, yeah, there's obviously a component of, we gave you this in our greatness and graciousness. And
yes, there's that aspect to it too.
You fans, you keep on demanding. Who the hell are you to demand from us? And this is what they don't get, that they are consumers. And also this report here, they say they come from Warner Media. Well, that means that this report was initiated some time ago. Zaslav didn't ask for this.
No.
Because Warner Media is no more.
But
The one who ordered this was Ann Sarnoff. And she was extremely anti-Snyder in the first place. She was the one who went out in the trades and declared the Snyderverse and the Snyder Cut for being dead 2 days before it was due to be released, because they were dead set against it. And it was the exact same wording that was used by Ann Sarnoff in that hit piece where she attacked the fans for being... What was the term she used again? Basically, some horrible insult that the fans were so toxic and they were so disgusting for daring to be critical towards her and her fellow Warner executives, because they have their own vision for what they wanted to do with DC, which of course is not happening anymore.
I do have one caveat to add, which about my, saying what I want to. I will say that description of how I am about Snyder was kind of predates two things. It definitely predates all of the drama with all the people that he picked, because the guy's got the worst choice in casting on planet Earth of any producer director, period, ever. I mean, it's got to his pick, and what's happened with Amber and Ezra and all this other shit has made basically DC. I don't trust DC to put out anything DC related in general. And so my little description of me being a whiny little Snyder fan, that's much more the case prior to all of the recent events. And I want to say that.
Well, and you can be a fan of the Snyder films and still call him to task for some of this shit. And that's kind of where I'm coming from.
But the thing that I realize now is one of the things I realized, Tom, and this is where you're really right. I'm going to really agree with you. It's going to sound like I'm arguing with myself, but I am, because I'm about to agree with you on something that you started with in the first 5-10 minutes, which is that the thing with Snyder is that, here I was, this hardcore fan wanting him. And then here's what I saw. Then he shits on us as a fandom, and he does it live when I'm on a live stream and I'm sitting in, I think I sent in 100 $150 for donations for that fundraiser at the time. He shits on all of his fans. Then I watch his I watch what's happened with Ezra and Amber. And so basically what happened then is that we as Snyder fans did the entire DC universe overall and Warner Brothers a massive disservice. Yes, we came along probably at the right time for HBO Max. Yes, I was happy at the time that we were getting what we wanted, but in getting what we wanted and acting like this kind of like, spoiled 7, 8, 9-year-olds that I know that I was part of the group that did, we've now done more harm in the aggregate to overall DC universe, because the truth of the matter is we never should have seen the Superman that we got. It's an obscure, in the history of DC Comics, it's the most obscure version that you could paint. And the one that we really need, the one this country needs, the one that most fans need, is more like the 1978 type of Superman. And God almighty, we don't need to turn Superman into Batman. Like you.
But here's the thing, though: you weren't getting that Superman anyway.
Yeah.
Because this is what one has to keep in mind. One, Warner did not release the Snyder Cut due to fan demand. The fan demand was incidental. It only happened because AT&T wanted something to push HBO Max, and then it was alerted to them, hey, we have something here that there is a fan demand for. Just look out the window, look at the billboards and everything, and we can finish it up for $80 million and get it out in a matter of months.
Well, and Snyder said
this is why they did that. Let's keep this in mind. It was never a case of, since you demand it, fine, we'll give it. No, that had nothing to do with it.
Well, in the quote himself, he pretty much says what I am saying, and that is what Warner is arguing, is that, yeah, was the Snyder Cut a success? To a point, but not the success that they were hoping for. He said it himself in that quote when he said, I wanted to give the fans the movie. I don't remember the exact quote, I'm paraphrasing, but all they wanted was something to push their streaming service. Yes, Zach, that's exactly why it happened.
Exactly, that's why it happened.
What they wanted out of it, exactly. Yeah. Was it a success? Yes. Was it the success they were hoping for? Fuck no.
I would say that it did the job that it was supposed to do. Because for a streaming service, there's no one thing that's going to keep a streaming service viable. It's a series of blips. And this was one of the blips that took HBO Max from a failure at launch to one of the biggest streaming services.
But how many people did they lose in the process of that?
Good point.
What do you mean?
Well, because after that, the Snyder fans were fickle.
Yep.
They would cancel after every little thing. And that's where this is coming out now, because
you know what? I think that
they're sick of dealing with them. They're sick of dealing with them. That's really what this is about.
Yeah.
And Mike is right too. You're sending mixed signals. And this is what I got into arguments with certain fans about before the Batman came out, when I tried to tell them, you want to send a signal to Warner Brothers, don't go see this fucking movie. And they still did. So now Warner sees it that, yeah, it wasn't a huge success, but there was enough people that went to see the Batman that they're not interested in this other shit. That's the signal that was sent to them. And that's kind of what Script was talking about with the tickets sold. The moment that other people went to see a completely different Batman, and enough people went that they saw that there's no interest in this to continue this. There's not enough anyway, right? They're not going to keep pursuing Ben Affleck. They're not going to keep doing all these other things. And you're right, Andre. A lot of this is still coming pre-Zaslav. We have no idea what his plan is.
I would say all of this. Not some.
You all are correct. Well, some of it is. Well,
all
the Snyder Cut
is inherited.
It just came out on video this week. That's why I'm saying this. And this is why they're probably saying is because I'm going to tell you guys right now, I won't be surprised if this video doesn't sell as big as they think it's going to. And I mean by they as in the fans. Because a lot of people are not going to revisit this movie. As somebody pointed out in the chat earlier, of 60% of the people that watched it on HBO Max, most of them didn't. That 60% of them did not finish the movie, right?
Well, that I think has some. Well, to be clear, it's not that they didn't finish the movie. Period. It's that they didn't finish it in one setting.
Well, from what I saw, they never finished watching it at all. I've talked to a lot of people just didn't finish watching it too, so I believe that they just got like it's too long. And if you've already seen it and you're not into the Zack Snyder stuff, that's the thing. It's a matter of taste. Right? Going back to what I said that you always point out too, is that this failed to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? That was the whole problem. This is why they switched to Joss Whedon midstream when it
And
came
what
to
can
Justice
never
League.
be forgotten, or that is not communicated enough, is that failure is every bit as much on Toby Emmerich and the executives at Warner as it is on Snyder himself, because he carried out their bidding. He did everything they wanted, and every controversial decision that he did on those movies, he ran by them, and he got cleared with them, and he got cheers and standing ovations for it. And then they turn around and blame him afterwards. So there's
Well, but
plenty
that's
blame
kind
to
of,
go around there.
and it will. An argument can be made. He did that with fans because one of the things, and I heard Tom talking about this last night, and I couldn't be on the show, so I was listening to it in the car, and I was just when Tom was talking about how Zack has a way of, how do I say this, guiding, manipulating, leading the fandom to water that he wants it to drink. Kind of, I mean, that's not how you put it, Tom, but
No, it's
Yeah, I
not.
can
But
see
you're
that.
right. It's close enough. I mean, it's basically the
he's
same
not
kind
he's
of-
never overt, but it's like,
Yes.
and I'm and I'm gonna say this, I'm like I'm the guy who got up at 7 a.m. California time and watched his his live show of his cut at 8 in the morning. I mean, and there's that, I was one of those fans that hung on everything Snyder did with bated breath, literally. Okay. And the thing is that if there's something about a guy like this that's kind of, I don't trust him with DC characters going forward. I will say that. And so I know that what's happened is that once he did what he did on the Geeks and Gamers stream, that alone split the Snyderverse fans hugely.
Absolutely.
That absolutely had a thermonuclear explosion right then and there.
Well, and okay, so here's one thing.
Then you have Ezra and Amber shit going on, and that thing makes what's gone on with them. I can't rewatch these movies anymore. There's really been a contaminative effect on these things, and I know that I'm not the only one. And frankly, Tom, you're right. There are a lot of people that I told to go see these movies, like the Snyder Cut, which I did like and I did enjoy, and I saw myself multiple times at the time. But I know multiple people that couldn't finish the fucking thing, either because it was too long or they thought there's too many stories going on or whatever the hell.
Well, no, and again, I don't want to say it was not some kind of success, because it was. And there was some things in the article that just didn't set right with me. Like the story about Zack Snyder having John's and Berg's name taken off and the threats that he made. That doesn't sound like Zack. Zack is more of a passive-aggressive person. Now, earlier in that part of that same paragraph, they talk about his wife pushing for the same thing. Now, I can see him sending her to do that, but I'm not so sure I can see him directly going at Warner Brothers with that aggressiveness, because at that point, he's still trying to get them to do what he wants. So that didn't set, and I never heard anything like that coming out of this situation, right? Like I never heard of any direct aggressive attitude from Snyder towards Warner Brothers at any time.
The only aggressiveness that I have observed is from Warner, from the previous administration, from the Sarnoff administration, towards the fans. Yes. And for those that want to start, that's
so
where the aggression was.
I will agree.
And they're the same ones that ordered this report in the first place.
Yes, I will agree that this, and I said this to Andre, is like, obviously, clearly they're showing their bias in here, that it's a hit piece on Snyder and the fans. That's clear. But unfortunately, there's some things in here that I know are either true or I've heard before. And there's a lot of this other stuff I just don't buy at all. And I don't think the bot thing is that big of a deal, but there's a reason this is coming out now. There's something to this other than, it can't just be because it's coming out on video, because that doesn't, in digital, that makes no sense. That's why this is coming out now. I mean, it does to a point, but not to this extent, not this kind of a hit piece. To me,
I have a theory.
Go ahead, let's hear it.
I'm sure you have as
well.
No,
I don't actually. I'm kind of confused to a point. I mean, the only thing I can think of is what I just said, and that's what I heard before, was that they're sick of the Snyder fans because they've gone from ignoring them to giving them what they want to continuing to listen to their whining about the air cut, which again, I'll reiterate, is not going to be what you guys think it is going to be. But anyway, because other than that, there's very little chance Ben Affleck's coming back. I've not heard any solid talk to Cavill or not. I've heard that's what Zaslav wants, but that doesn't mean anything's come of it yet. So I'm more than curious to hear
I
what you
think
got.
that you hit on something really important there, Tom. You're right. This isn't just about the video release or the digital release beyond the HBO Max of the Snyder Cut. I mean, that makes this good timing to try to sabotage that. But there's obviously more at play. And I think it's because of Zaslav. I think this is someone trying to create headlines to sway him. Because right now he has some very big decisions to make about which direction
True.
DC on film will be going in the future. Now, the people that are sympathetic towards this article, like the people behind Rolling Stone and stuff like that, right? These are basically in cahoots with the previous regime. You can totally tell. I mean, this is literally the exact same wording that is used here as was used in the Variety piece. I believe it was Variety, where Anne Sarnoff attacked the fans and declared the Snyderverse for dead. Someone doesn't want it. This is for certain. So what do they want instead? Well, they obviously want the more diverse direction that they were going, the one that's being set up now in The Flash, with the new Trinity being consisting of Batgirl and Supergirl and Wonder Woman. I mean, that's the direction that they're headed, and someone really wants to see that direction continue, and someone really, really doesn't want Zaslav to reach out to Affleck or to Cavill or anything like that. I think that that's what this really is about. I think this is someone that is trying to influence Zaslav and his direction for the future for DC on film. I mean, what's he doing right now? Right now, he is working on deciding what to do about Ezra Miller. Do we reshoot the movie? Now we have test screenings for Batgirl, and apparently it's awful. That's what we've been hearing.
Depends on who
Maybe
you ask.
now is the time to do something with that. Maybe now is the time to walk back everything that Sarnoff was trying to do.
See, I've heard mixed on the Batgirl thing, but yeah.
By the way, I have to say this. Yellow Flash is on fire in the chat.
I sent you the link, man. If you're not,
Yeah, come on, hop on the chat. We'd love to hear from
but
you.
speaking of Cavill,
Flash is on fire and hilarious right now. I had to mute my mic twice because he's on fire this morning. Big fan.
On the note of Henry Cavill, though, since we brought it up, Stony D, who's been a member for 7 months at the Viking level, says, "Hail, any word on Cavill Highlander remake? Is that still in the works?" Last I knew, he was filming it over the spring, and I think he's done shooting it. So I think it's on course for next year.
Yeah, you'll be hearing something in like the next 6 months then.
I would imagine, yeah, because last I knew he said something on. Last I heard about it anyway, he was on like Instagram, I think it was, where he said that in April he was going to, I think, Scotland or whatever to start shooting. So I think that was where they were shooting.
You know what? The only thing that makes me sad is that unless something's changed, Andre never saw all the original Highlanders.
He's only seen the first one.
I've seen the original.
No, the TV series.
No,
that I never saw.
Honestly, I don't know if he could get into the TV series now. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's not a show that aged
I don't think
well,
it's aged.
I guess.
I don't think it's aged quite well.
This is the problem, that the series from a certain age, I mean, unless they were written really spectacular, just the technical limitations of their filming is going to keep them back. Like I recently tried to rewatch Kindred, The Embraced, like a TV miniseries made based on Vampire the Masquerade. I mean, I loved it.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's unwatchable. And it's just because of the technical aspects.
Yeah. See, I wonder if when they finally get the Highlander series out on Blu-ray, because they've been remastering it, maybe it'll be more watchable. But like as it is now, if you're not a fan of the original series, I don't know if it would hold up to somebody seeing it now who's never seen it before. But
probably not.
But they are remastering it, so it could look really good. Like the Video Masters, to me, is what makes it look like shit right now. But it is a very 90s show at the same time.
Same thing with one of the greatest series ever made, namely American Gothic. I mean, that too. And if it only had been like filmed on film, in widescreen, it would have helped. But as it is right now, it's just borderline unwatchable with the quality that it's in. And it's a shame because that was a great series. For those that wonder, I'm talking about the 1995 American Gothic, the one with the Southern sheriff who was in leagues with the devil.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people out there saying a lot of stuff in the chat. So let's see what you guys have to say. All Hail Star Trek Orville sends in $35, and our South African
No,
brands,
that would be South African rounds. Thank you very much. Let me
I'm
see
pretty
who
sure
this
I know
is.
who that is. To me, this seems like the last gasps to sabotage the Zaslav retreatment of DC.
Yes.
That being said, Zack Snyder didn't help the debate by posting a Mussolini quote. Well, this is the thing. He's been his own worst enemy through this whole fucking thing, and that's kind of why I said this article is a little bit of karma coming back, maybe.
Yeah.
So again, it's not about the fans so much to me. When I'm talking about this stuff, I'm talking about his own moves and stuff that he's done behind the scenes. But the aggressive stuff, I never heard about that. But him like manipulating the fans and pushing things this way and that way, yes, I have heard of that. And then just the way he came on and just threw everybody under the bus on that stream was just very.
That's the problem when you deal with beta males.
That's the thing I got to try and remind everybody. He's just as woke as all the other wokies, just because his movies don't necessarily show that. Remember who he casted and all that kind of stuff, and who he stood by.
Shredded
Do not forget.
Yep, shredded or not, he's no alpha, that's for sure.
He stood by Amber too. Remember that, and I've heard that he still fought to keep her in part. He was part of the people fighting to keep her in Aquaman. So you never know if
that's a fight he absolutely should lose, which makes you wonder what kind of blackmail must she have. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
And that's one thing I do remember hearing heavily. GEC812 says, Andre and Tom, given any thought of uploading Midnight's Edge to Spotify, it's good to have additional options. Amazon Alexa plays Spotify on YouTube. Well, there was a program I told Andre about. I don't know if you ever got a chance to looking into it again.
No, thanks for reminding me. I have to look into that.
Yes, Sadie, the mailman's here. Sorry about that.
And I just want to announce that just because I'm a channel member, just because I'm a producer, just because I'm part of the team, just because I'm in the chat and on the live stream, I'm not part of Midnight's Edge.
You're not affiliated?
Yeah, I'm not affiliated with Midnight's Edge.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So yeah, it is to laugh, but anyway, Spotify. I have to look into what Tom was saying, so we'll look into.
I have to remember I'll have to ask Robert what that program was again. But there's a program that actually helps us with all that. The other side of it is there's things we want to do with that, but also we want to have some sort of level of control and knowing what exactly where things are going. And it's a little easier to have that oversight on YouTube compared to some of these other places, but we'll definitely look into that. And then Archangel says, you don't think the article comes somewhat from Amber Heard hiring bot Sentinel?
Well, I do think that it's the people behind this article are also quite sympathetic towards Amber Heard. That I do think. I'll say that.
Which is kind of a conflict of interest, but yeah. Dash Attack says, Zach and Geeks and Gamers drama was overblown. Yes,
I don't think so. Yes and no, but I honestly, I don't think it was.
I think that it wasn't so much the fact that he did it to Geeks and Gamers. It was the fact that he did it to the fans, especially after how much they had given. And Andre's right. And nowhere in the article do they say any of the good stuff the Snyder fans have done. So for all those who think I'm just throwing hate out there, no, I've been in the middle of this shit since the beginning, right? I got kicked out of the Collider Facebook group for not bowing down and saying that Zack Snyder is Jesus. Like there was a whole overblown fucking argument.
Were you
and I'm the one who got booted out?
You're the one that started the "he's not Jesus" thing.
Yes.
Oh shit! I thought you were just like an innocent victim that got ran over. You started that?
Well, no, somebody posted this fucking thing, and I'm like, he's not as great as everybody says he is.
So basically, you were saying that he isn't Jesus. What you should have said, you should have told him that Superman isn't Jesus.
Well, that too. Everybody, he either thinks everybody's Batman or Jesus. So, no,
poor Tom. There goes Tom speaking truth again, and and reaping the benefits.
That's all right. In the end, I don't miss that group. 2 euros from Joel Rise. Thank you so much. Says they don't like the proles telling them what to do. What's proles?
Is it misspelled for troll?
That might be.
Oh,
No. He means the proletariats, like the workers, the pleb.
Oh,
They don't like the pleb telling them.
that's what I was
what
wondering
to
if you
do.
meant something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he means the proletarians.
This
Basically
is true as
meaning
well.
the working schlubs and the scum.
Yes, gotcha.
Us, exactly.
All right. And then Adam Wilford says there never should have been a Zack Snyder cut. See what?
Now there I disagree. There I do disagree. I'm very happy that the Snyder cut is out. Personally, I enjoyed the Snyder cut. Like full disclosure, I do enjoy it. Like I'm not like a hardcore Snyder fan, but I do greatly enjoy the Snyder cut, and I even think the director's cut of Batman v Superman is not without merits. So there. So I do think it should have been released.
Same
Specifically
movie, same
because
property,
the
different order.
theatrical version was so botched, and where a version of a movie is completely botched, I'm all for it being released, and it was. So I'm happy with that. And on that note, bring about the Suicide Squad by David Ayer. I mean, I might not even watch it because I hated the theatrical cut that much. But still, I think it should be out there. No harm in that. When
Yeah, I don't
have such studio interference as you had in that case. Is absolutely worth it with an alternate cut. Not for everything, but in cases like that where you have two practically different movies, then bring it out. I mean, on that note, they'll release the Eric Stoltz cut of Back to the Future. I wouldn't mind that. I'd love to see that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Moving on.
Indeed. And I don't know why Rory's saying this, but this is true. Just because Midnight's Edge covers Hollywood does not mean they're associated with him in any way. In an unrelated matter, Midnight's Edge and its fans deplore child abuse and grooming in all forms. This is true.
Yeah, well, we can get
I don't
behind
disagree with
that.
That sure. Robert Montoya says, what was the metric Warner set internally where if Snyder Cut hit, that it'd be a hit they needed? If we don't know that metric, I suggest Ann Sarnoff acolytes are mad that it was a hit, period.
Actually, here's the thing. Warner never set it. It was AT&T that set it. It was an AT&T call made by Jason Killar and his people. They were the ones that said that we're going to do this.
Blame Baby Yoda.
Their metric of success, I honestly don't know that they broke down the numbers to that level of detail that you would think. I
submit for consideration two things. One is that because there was probably no hard metric about what would be successful, the fact that when it aired on HBO Max, it would have any kind of success, that was a big deal. But what made it more of a big deal is that the Snyder fans, we played in a domain in which they like to control, which is social media. We organized in social media, whether it was Facebook or it was Twitter or wherever we all were, we were in social media, and that gets in their heads because these entertainment types, these studio types think that universe is the whole world. So number one, we were bitching and complaining, and what they see as their domain. And then number two is that those of us actually showed up and gave this thing a lot of views. I mean, I know that first week it came out, I saw the movie in its entirety, all 4 hours, 3 times. And I even had two watch parties with 80 people privately. One for Echo Base Network and another one that I hosted.
No, it was a hit to a point. And why I brought up the Baby Yoda thing is that's the only reason it happened, is because both Disney and Warner jumped the gun on releasing their streaming services. They wanted to capitalize. They already were trying to get them out early as it was. But when COVID hit, they really wanted to capitalize on that, on top of everything else. And Mandalorian really being the hit it was, Warner needed something to bring people in, because they knew they weren't going to have any of the new shows that they had planned on because the whole Game of Thrones thing got botched. For those who don't know, there was 5 planned series to come in and launch HBO Max with that were all supposed to be Game of Thrones spinoffs that all fell apart after the last season of Game of Thrones. And that's a whole long story that we've covered various aspects.
And wait for the prequel to fall apart as well.
Yeah, and there's the 2 shows that they actually got off the ground that I think are going to fall apart as well. But that's neither here nor there on that part. So what happened was they said, what do we have that we can put out there to generate some kind of interest in HBO Max, because they were falling behind. And at some point, I'm sure they brought up a few things, and the Snyder Cut was one of them. Kalar or whoever had his people go to work, do the research. They found that there was enough people. They noticed that you guys were an organized group. And yes, they hijacked you guys to get HBO Max boosted up, just like Zack Snyder hijacked you guys to get his vision out there.
Yeah, and that is what it took for the Snyder Cut to be released. That's the name of the game. Had it not been for that, it would never, ever have been released. No way. Yeah. That is what caused it. It was HBO Max and that whole unique constellation. That is why the movie happened. Were it not for that, no Snyder Cut.
Because as we said before, the only way that Snyder Cut's ever happening is if you get a completely different regime, and anybody whose butt could have been hurt by it is gone. And that's it was a perfect fucking storm that in a million other years could have never happened. But it just happened to happen. And that's why when Ant Sarnoff said that shit in the interview, even though we said they were saying it because whatever, it was still kind of true. At that point, until somebody else made a choice, whether it was Kalar at that time or Zaslav now, there was no continuing the Snyderverse. It was done. That was it. She wasn't wrong on that part. And at this point, we're getting so far away from things. You guys got to realize we're getting to the point where it's been how many years since the original Man of Steel and all that stuff? But this franchise is getting on 10 years old already. They're almost to the same place where Marvel is at this point, really, in years. I mean, when they got to Infinity War. So what have they done? Nothing. They got to basically restart all over again. They got 5 movies.
Cavill hasn't even been in the Superman suit for 7 years
That's
now?
my point, and that's what a lot of people are pointing out at this. They're kind of debating on do we bother going with Cavill and hope he's got a good 5-10 years in him?
Get a Cavill
or do we get somebody else
as a Superman, but not as a Snyder Superman?
Well, and that's just it. At this point, I think that and this is what I've been telling people, this is what I've been hearing, and this goes probably along with what Andre's been saying. If there's any chance for a Snyderverse going forward, it's going to be as a separate universe on HBO Max, but Script Doctor will be the first one to tell you that's kind of going against what Zaslav wants. Zaslav wants what Marvel's doing. And that is everything's uniformed, everything feeds off of the other. You have to see it kind of thing. Like that's what he wants. He wants them all to be together. That goes against what Sarnoff and that team wanted to do which was separate things. If you remember. So they're back at this point where it's a civil war going on over there, just like it is right now over at Disney. But I mean, would you call it even a dirtier civil war over at Warner Brothers in a weird way? It's kind of more underhanded.
I would call it more passive aggressive.
Yeah, that's a better way of explaining it. Yes, thank you. Because a lot of the worst people are out of the building already, right? The only one who's being kept hung around is Hamada, and I swear he's just being left around in case A, Zaslav needs somebody else yet to fire, or B, his shit actually does take off and he gets a second life. and in the meantime, Zaslav can't find anybody else to run DC. That's the only reason I think Hamada's still around. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
Because he's got like one last shot. If any of these next few movies, if say, half of them at least score, he might save his job. But I don't think he's in any place where he knows he's in a good place. So I don't. Do we see any of the? From what I've been hearing about Aquaman 2, this is the funny thing too. So I think I told you this, Andre. Those test screenings they had, the person I talked to said, Amber's not even the problem. The movie's the problem. The movie sucks.
Yeah, you know what? But of course, I'm not surprised. I mean, I think that just look at it. With the exception of the Suicide Squad, which still flopped, but I enjoyed it, and so did many others. Every single DC movie to come out of the Sarnoff and Hamada regime has been a disaster. All of them. You have Wonder Woman 84, you have Birds of Prey. We are hearing very little good about The Flash. We are hearing very little good about Batgirl. We know that their plans were utter rubbish because Anne Sarnoff told us what her plans were, and they were utter rubbish. Why would Aquaman 2 be any different? I mean, a buddy cop movie. Who the hell thinks of that? Who the hell makes a buddy cop sequel to it? Did you see the first Aquaman? Tom, I know you've forgotten it, and frankly, so have I. But you tell me that the sequel to that is going to be a buddy cop movie, then I wonder what the hell you're smoking.
It's gotten so far that I think I'm mixing pieces of The Lion King in with it.
Yeah, but anyway,
I don't even know what the movie was anymore.
Yeah, I know, but the point here is that it's seriously mismanaged, and it's mismanaged by the very people who were so dead set against the Snyderverse. But what they came up with was worse, much worse. And for that reason, Aquaman 2 is going to be a disaster as well. I mean, I kind of don't envy Zaslav, because he has said that the DC brand is the most important that they have, and they need to get it right. And every single movie he has in the can, from Aquaman 2 to The Flash, we don't know anything about Shazam and Black Adam, so maybe there's hope for those. But beyond that, he has one disaster after the other on his hands.
Yeah, I like Fatty here. Okay. How about this? Lethal Weapon underwater. How do they come up with this shit? Yeah, it's baked bean.
Yeah, that is the question.
Aquaman should be an apology to and promise not to make movies for at least a decade. No, and honestly, that's where a lot of people are like, why don't they just cancel The Flash? Why don't they do this? There's a lot of people there who would love to just throw their hands up in the air and say, let's call it even and just start over. But they can't. That's the fucking problem.
Yeah, you know what the problem is, if I just may? Because you have tried to start over now several times.
Well, not just that.
Inside continuity, and it's failed every time. How many? What's to make sure that you're going to get it right the next time? If you try to start over and you fail, you've done the same thing that's been done the past few years. Only you're in a worse state because the brand is going to be even more damaged.
Well, I'm gonna posit one more thing, and this is goes against everything kind of you said, Andre, and that is what if Zaslav does know about this hit piece and he did send it out there? Because I'm going to give you one more scenario. Every fucking problem he's dealing with right now is Zack Snyder's fault.
I disagree with that.
But it's true.
No, it started. Every single problem he deals with started because of Zack Snyder. But there was someone before him that escalated those problems, and that is outside of Snyder's hands. Yeah,
Sarnoff.
You can blame. I just this cannot be emphasized enough. You can blame Zack Snyder for hiring Ezra Miller and Amber Heard in the first place.
Talking about.
That is fair. You cannot blame him for Anne Sarnoff and Walter Hamada not firing them when it was clear they were either liabilities or crazy people.
Well, here's the difference.
Snyder, he can hide behind the excuse that he didn't know how crazy they were at the time.
Well, here's the difference.
Sarnoff and Hamada has no such excuse.
He's already fired Sarnoff and all them, and he's got Hamada on a little fucking hook.
Yeah.
He can't technically fire Zack Snyder if there's nothing being made. But what he can do, like he's done to him, is make his life a living hell for the next year because that's what he's done to him. And I get where you're coming from. I think it's a very unlikely. I don't think, because this is not something, because I'll be honest with you guys. This is what I've been hearing from a few places. And I know I'll say this as best I can. I have a source that is somewhat close, fairly in the vicinity bubble of Zaslav. And every time one of these things comes out, he gets pissed. He does not want to deal with this. They've been wanting this shit to go away. They don't want Ezra Miller in the fucking press. They're sick of Amber fucking Heard. This is another thing I heard recently. The reason they're deciding to recast her has less to do with her losing the fucking court case, Andre, get this, than the fact that she just won't let it go. Because she keeps being in the fucking headlines about this shit.
Well, it's the same end result. She's a liability.
That's what I've been hearing. Because at this point, they were kind of figuring the same thing. Just fuck it, put it out there. Everybody already knows she's in the fucking movie. They already know we filmed this before. And to Zaslav, it was done before his regime. So even though they're, the money, they can't just, it's not just a throwaway like it was when Disney bought Fox. It was part of the deal. Zaslav still has to make these movies somehow function, right? They still have to bring in money now so they have money to continue to work later. This isn't like the Disney Fox acquisition. This is a little bit different here. He still has to worry about these movies going forward. And that's where people are like, well, why don't you just say fuck it with the Flash? He can't just say fuck it with the Flash because it sets up 4 other fucking movies going forward. And they're already shot. It's not like they're planning on them. It's not like they're in pre-production. No, fucking, they're all shot, Andre. Batgirl's in the can.
Flash I know Batgirl's in the can. What else is in the can?
Aquaman 2. Blue Beetle's almost done. Like, they've got all these. Any movie that was up through Joker 2 has been shot now. They're in the can. They're done. Shazam 2. But those movies, luckily, Shazam and Black Adam probably have nothing to do with the other ones.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Out there. So those are in the can.
But they're all still in the same. They're all still in that same fucking Snyderverse problem. So that's where they would love to just throw their hands up in the air, start all over, recast everybody, start from scratch. That's kind of where they were hoping the Batman would take off. If that would have been $1 billion hit, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
I can guarantee to you, not only would the Snyderverse be dead, they would make sure the Snyderverse is dead. Because we would have heard an announcement, a new Superman, a new Flash, all this shit probably.
Well, unfortunately for them, the Batman was a woke mess, and I'm glad it failed. But that's me.
That's the problem. It didn't technically fail. It was.
Yeah, I know that's a horrible position. I mean, it would have been better if it had failed. To be honest,
because it needed to either completely fucking bomb or completely blow them out of the water. And unfortunately, it did middling to basically what BVS did.
Yeah, basically, worst case scenario. It
would have been right back where they were.
Been better if it had properly bombed.
Or that's that's where it was sitting. That's where I'm telling you guys right now. That's the reason. The Batman is the reason where I'm not so sure that I can totally think that Zaslav may be rethinking this whole fucking thing. And that's what I've been hearing. Because it wasn't a bomb, but it wasn't the $1 billion hit. So they're kind of stuck at this place of, well, there's enough people that don't want to see this other stuff, but there is enough people that do want to see it, but not enough people that want to see the Snyder stuff. That's kind of where they're at. And that's the last I can really kind of say about that.
Yeah,
if I say too much more, I'll probably get in trouble. So
yeah, but basically, that's the worst place to be. Absolute worst place to be.
But so let's move on.
That's the place where they don't know what to do,
and that's why it's taking so long. And I guess that's the best I can give you guys that I can say right now, because this Amber thing, it would have just went away. They just would have released Aquaman and just let it go and recast her moving down the road. But now they're stuck in this fucking position. They got to reshoot that. And if they do that, then they might as well do the thing with, with Ezra. And you're right. Like, if there's any other issues with these other movies, now is the time. They got to do something. And they went and they've got Michael Keaton in two of these movies already. And that's a problem they got to deal with. So and he's not a young man, so they can't be bringing him back for constant reshoots, and he's probably not going to do that. And we heard he's not happy, and not just me, but other people have heard he's not happy about this whole situation. But that's
obviously.
So let's move on with some super chats here. Robert Montoya says, "Oh, we got this one already." But yes, as far as the last, I suggest and Sarnoff Acolytes are mad. It was a hit. Period. That kind of was what I was saying. It wasn't the hit they wanted. It was kind of a middling ground for everything, unfortunately. And then you highlighted this one, Andre. What was with all the loss of almost 1 million subscribers? What do you think Netflix will do with their Conan plans? What series would be perfect to recover or that series would be perfect to recover subscribers now. So yeah, this is an interesting bit of news here we can touch on real quick. Netflix did report a loss of subscribers, not as big a loss as they thought it was going to be. So the believe it or not, their stock actually went up a little bit because of that.
Yeah, but that's only natural. I mean,
yeah.
when the market is braced for this is going to be dreadful news, and then it's like, oh, news weren't dreadful, great, then the stock is has a tendency to rise just a little bit. This happens.
But again, it's not good. But it depends on if they continue to lose 1 million subscribers every quarter. That's going to be the big deal.
Absolutely.
But no, I think you're right. I think Netflix, this is some things we've been hearing. I don't know if you've been hearing anything about this, Andre, but they're kind of panicked right now because they've lost they lost a lot of their licensed stuff. They don't have the kind of hits they need to consistently keep the audience. For every Stranger Things, there's 20 or 30 not shows you've never watched, right? And they spend quite a bit of money. Like Netflix spends more money than some of the studios do on their productions every year. So with that though, Conan would be a great one. They need another hit or two. They need at least a few hits to carry them through an entire year.
And also, again, this is just right. What I'm saying right now is pure speculation on my part. I genuinely, really don't know the truth of the matter here. But I would speculate that after so many flops, because every woke thing they have flops, and it flops worse than other things, because those tend to be big, expensive things. And I know that, this I do know, that Masters of the Universe Revelation, that put them back, because there was one thing where they saw from the first episode, they saw, shit, there's a ton of interest here. This is going to be a huge thing. And when part 2 dropped, it was dead. No one cared. And it took external funding to get season 2 greenlit. That is something that was startling. So what they learned from that was that there's a demand for this, and somehow we messed it up. I hope that they're going to see that the Conan series, and I know a little bit about what they're planning, and what they're planning is excellent. That all we have to do is just sit back and let the extremely skilled people they have attached to work on it do their magic, and they're going to have a Game of Thrones level hit on their hands. Right now, there is no Game of Thrones. There's nothing that fills that spot in the market. This could be it.
And I've said that before too. And I mean, I don't know nearly as much as you do about it. And I know you can't say too much. But from what I'm hearing, Netflix is kind of hands off on this, aren't they? It's kind of just, they're just delivering it.
That's my understanding of it. That is like mostly hands off. Like, we just want to see what you're doing. Show us your plans. And if we agree that this is a solid plan, we're going to sit back and we're going to let you work your magic. If they do that, if they just see that, this is going to be very unpopular in some quarters, but again, Game of Thrones audience, is what we're trying to go for here, and this is something that should give them that.
You might get your wish, Lauren.
Yeah,
you might get your wish.
You might get your wish.
In fact, I think they're already developing one. That's about all we can say about that. Developing doesn't mean we're necessarily going to get, but if Conan is a hit,
if Conan is the hit that they hope it will be, if that happens, you'll get the Solomon Kane series.
And you can hear, I believe we do have bits of Frederick Malmberg talking about.
We have the official announcement that they are internally developing a Solomon Kane series right here from rights holder Frederick Malmberg himself.
But he actually talked a little bit about the series and what they're doing. Like, this was early on, so he didn't really answer too much. But we asked him all the questions we could, and he kind of gave us the hint that the sky's the limit on this. Yeah. So basically, if it's a hit, that we could get movies, we could get spin-offs, we could get animated stories, and I even brought up the possibility of bringing back Schwarzenegger there's all kinds of things that could happen if this is a hit. So
yeah, they have a role in mind for him.
And that's the beauty of it. Netflix, they're under no like limitations, it sounds like.
No whatsoever. The only thing that they have to do is they have to get like a series off the ground.
Exactly. Yeah.
It has to be sufficiently successful. And if it meets Netflix internal criteria for success, sky's the limit.
Red Sonja is a different animal, and stay tuned on that, Rob. Sorry.
Yeah, Red Sonja is completely separate. They are two legally separate entities, and never again shall the two meet.
But Andre has a video he's working on that, so stay tuned for that.
I do.
But yeah, so we'll definitely have some more Conan news coming up here soon. In fact, I think there was a little bit of movement on that recently that we will be discussing, because I think even Schwarzenegger's been showing some interest in returning again. So we'll see.
As I said, they have a role for him.
They do. And that's where I brought up, there's plenty of possibilities. And he said, oh yeah, never count that out. So, yeah. And I think he was one of the few people that the people that were working on that documentary had to talk to yet. And that was about it.
Yes. The documentary, the definitive Conan documentary, one of the holdouts there is, from what I understand, Schwarzenegger himself. So, and you kind of...
I don't think it was a holdout thing so much as a scheduling thing. It sounded like to me, but yeah.
Yeah, holdout may be the wrong term.
Because this was in the midst of COVID when we talked to these guys too. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, and then Willie says, I think it's more of a hit piece on the fans than on Snyder. The bottom mount I'm iffy on, but salt sure is flowing from WB offices. It's both. You're right in both accounts, Willie. From what I can gather, because like I said, a lot of this just kind of I don't know if it was, how do I put this? Because you're right, Andre, about this. This was something that's been in the works for a while. This was time to go, I think, with the release of the Snyder Cut on standard home video and VOD, but there's got to be more to it. I think there's a little bit more to it. It could be a plea from the other side to just let it go. It could be some people internally who are just had enough. But the fact that they have accounts from over a dozen people, that can't be discounted, unfortunately. But yeah, the bot thing is, to me, kind of is again aside from the point.
It's a complete non-issue, really, from my point of view.
Yeah, and joining us now is Script Doctor, who I'm sure has plenty to say about this. Good evening, or good morning, sir.
Good afternoon. Sorry, guys. Just lots of stuff going on this morning. I was able to listen to the first hour, so I'm happy to be able to sneak on for a little bit and talk with you gentlemen about all of this. With regards to the bot stuff, we'll never know so long as Twitter doesn't release that information about the actual bot percentage. So it's kind of like an issue, non-issue. With regards to like Snyder making claims that Warner Brothers did more with social media to squash his movie than him, I think that's confession through projection. I mean, one thing Snyder knows how to do is tease his fans on Instagram and Twitter with stuff and get them to do exactly what he wants.
That's why I can't discount that threat either. Like, I mean, I don't associate that with him so much of being that aggressive, but then again, you're right, Script, on that. Go ahead, sorry.
I mean, just that one picture of the 4 film canisters that he put out there just really motivated so many people.
You're not
to get
wrong.
Behind that. And it was almost effortless on his part. With regards to his personality, I've met him. He's not an aggressive guy. He also has a huge issue with speaking in general, whether it be publicly or privately. He's not very articulate, which is why I think the whole Geeks and Gamers controversy, I don't think it was intentional. I think the fact of the matter is he was given 2 public statements to make, and he did not know how to bridge them properly because he's not a smart person, in my opinion. He's visually creative, but he's not smart enough to see, these 2 statements shouldn't be bled together, no matter how nervous I am. Because you can take a look at the statement that he said at the tail end, and everybody else that was in the same sort of what was it? It was some sort of like public event that was doing, like Kevin Smith and a couple other film critics and whatnot, all said the same thing. That
Mhm.
Zack Snyder at the end. It's just what Zack Snyder at the beginning part. Like he should have said something like, I'm so happy to be a guest here. I'm not a member of Geeks and Gamers, but I'm happy to be a guest here. Happy that you guys did all your things. And I think we can all agree, blah, 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 and so forth. Like that's probably what he was instructed to say by like the publicist. And then he just botched it up because, you know, if you're not Kevin Smith or some interviewer that is friends with Zack Snyder, he does not know how to speak. He needs help. Like he needs help explaining things. And that is really that's something that should be troublesome for a director.
And that's
Uh,
why I believe his wife would have went and made those threats, but not him personally. But anyway, because that's
Probably.
kind of
I
the way
don't
the
know much
article
about
laid it
Deborah.
out. Yeah.
I never had the opportunity to meet her. I know that she wishes she was like the Susan Downey of production. I know that. um, but outside of those things, like, listen, this was timed with regards to I guess the digital release of Snyder, which seems kind of redundant because it's on HBO Max. They released it 4K Ultra, Blu-ray, whatnot in September of last year. It just seems weird that they released the 4K Ultra without a digital code. Is that my
Yeah, the
understanding of
way
it?
it went last year is it was only on HBO Max and only a 4K release. They did a limited 4K release. And then so basically since then you can actually get it on DVD, Blu-ray, and like Vudu, Amazon, anywhere. So it's actually been officially released everywhere. And a lot of people were actually importing it from the UK last year because the UK and some other places got wider releases of it on video that they didn't get here. So yeah, there was no other digital release until recently and all that stuff.
Oh,
So
because I was just checking
yeah.
Amazon during the show, and it's like it's a 4K Ultra release was debuted, and it's from the September launch campaign, and they're still not out of stock. I was actually able to get to like 100 pre-orders, or not so much pre-order, but 100 in my cart for it, and I was like, I just gave up. I didn't want to risk accidentally buying 100 4K of
Well, it's
those.
been re-released since that initial release. That's what I'm saying. But now it's finally hitting Blu-ray and DVD for the first time, basically, is the only difference. And video on demand instead of it being only on HBO Max and 4K only. That's the big difference. That's why I said this is not, you're right, in the respect that this is not like a major release. Why pick this to pick on? Because it's not really going to have a major impact either way. So I don't understand that part.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but again, like the new regime over at Warner Brothers has taken over, so everybody that was part of that old regime is no longer beholden to any NDAs and stuff. So we're going to get lots of dirt coming out over the coming years of what it was like at Warner Brothers, from like the top tier execs and whatnot, uh, and frankly, what we're probably going to learn is that a lot of the execs that were like overseeing the DC films were probably not paying attention at all to what was going on in any detail, because they were really expecting with Christopher Nolan's name on as a producer on Man of Steel, with David S. Goyer because of his affiliation with Nolan and the Dark Knight trilogy, and then Zack Snyder with his fairly well received 300 and Watchmen films, that they were going to cross that $1 billion threshold with Man of Steel, and the fact they didn't, there's like, oh, this is not good. And instead of just cutting their ties, which a normal studio would do, they instead said, okay, let's just throw Batman in there. And I mean, that's just completely irrelevant and ignorant of an aspect there. And then on top of that, it had a ripple effect. I mean, I worked in props for the Suicide Squad with David Ayer. I never got to meet David Ayer, but met a lot of the people that worked them and stuff, and we never heard much from the studio aside from the fact that we got called back to do reshoots several months later. And in both those times, the majority of the crew and stunt teams and people that I interacted with, we loved the production and David, but we just did not like the script. We thought it was terrible, and from the bits that we were able to glean and piece together from each other, because there's a lot of separation between some of the departments. So, I mean, I think he should get his cut, because, the guy made Training Day and he's made some other great films. He should be allowed to have a little bit of creative control over things that he's written and shot. And I'm glad that Snyder got his thing, because it worked out for HBO Max. It worked out for him. It worked out for the fans. But it also set a precedent that not just Warner Brothers, but other studios are very conscious about, which is we want our fans and our audience to vote with their wallets, essentially, to buy tickets to go see things in theaters, and we don't want them just talking about how much they want it on social media, because that's not how movies should get made. They should get made by, we put it out there. If it does well, we'll do a follow-up, and if it doesn't do well, we'll start something else. And from their perspective, it didn't do well on multiple versions of multiple films did not do well, and the fans kept on demanding for more of it. And they're just looking at the spreadsheets and saying, like, it's the numbers just don't justify. And if there's this many fans out here, then why aren't we selling out, 44,000 theaters of this thing constantly? For Superman of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League is, I guess, a bit more easier one to understand because there's the divisive nature between Zack having to have left for multiple reasons, some of which were nefarious studio reasons, and then Joss Whedon taking over. So that one you can kind of say, yeah, that's kind of up in the air. But the first two, it doesn't warrant them to have continued to invest in the third, in the Justice League one. And I think it's just the studio just saying, we have to keep up with Marvel. We're already invested with these guys. We might as well just play it out and keep on adding characters, and hopefully that'll give us that that $1 billion threshold to cross. But it never happened.
I guess I got to correct myself. I read an article about the release. In the article, I swear it said it was being released for the first time on Blu-ray and DVD, but evidently it's been on Blu-ray and DVD for a year. This is only a digital release, evidently.
Yeah, like I've had the Snyder Cut.
Well, I know it was
4K
released on.
Blu-ray.
I know a bunch of people imported it originally for the reason that it wasn't coming out here in the same way. So whatever. I didn't give a fuck. That's the problem. I didn't care enough to fucking pay attention because I didn't like the movie. Sorry, I didn't like either version.
No, that's fair.
Because in the Snyder Cut version, yes, which was the better film, he ruined Superman. And in the Justice Cut, it's a horrible fucking movie, but it's actually Superman. So
that is a sad irony, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the difference between Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder is Joss Whedon knows how to craft character and direct actors, and Zack Snyder knows how to shoot a scene. That's it. Like he knows how to stage a shot. I mean, I don't know anyone that ever
splice the two together.
Visuals. Yeah, trying to hybrid them together would be tricky because here's the thing that's kind of a weird aspect in Hollywood is that lots of directors get their starts in music videos, and they usually just rise out of music videos into television and film, and they do so within a couple of years because you can shoot music videos in a very short time. You can get them out fast, and they circulate, and they allow you to experiment quite quickly and effectively and understand how sets work. Only a handful of music video directors that I know refuse to go into film and television because they just hate the bureaucracy of it. Zack Snyder had been trying to get in for 10 years. And that's unheard of. It doesn't take 10 years for, a good music video director to break into film and television. It took him 10 years.
I remember thinking that he was quite old when he first started getting into movies because he was 40 already then.
Yeah, and basically they're doing a remake of Dawn of the Dead, James Gunn's script, and they needed someone, and a lot of directors just turned it down because they didn't want to remake it. And so eventually he just got lucky and got that. And he shot it, as he did. And it was an awesome remake to a degree. I had some issues with some parts of it, but whatever. It kind of launched him in his career. And he just kept going. But the thing is that, a director...
Don't discount 300. That's what really sent him.
300 was just basically built on top of that. 300.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Exactly. Yeah. Like he wouldn't have gotten 300.
No, I know, but nobody remembers that he directed Dawn of the Dead until recently, right? Like I had to remind people that he directed that.
It's so unlike anything he's ever done because he never wrote. He was not part of the writing process of it at all.
I say 300 was the one that I remember that put him on the map, but that's just
Well, I mean, he started in horror. Horror got him the attention that he was able to say, hey, I want... And then here's the other part, too. Sin City came out, and Zack Snyder said, I want to do that with 300. And he made friends with Frank Miller, and they pitched it, and because of his success with Dawn of the Dead remake, he got 300. And, it was dramatic. It was impactful. The styling worked there. But, again, when you take a look at all of the films that he has made, and you take a look at how he, like, the cast doesn't really do much, and he doesn't get much of a performance out of this. I've said this before. You cannot name a Oscar-worthy or nominated-worthy performance from any actor in a Zack Snyder film because Zack Snyder doesn't really get that out of them. I mean, Ben Affleck was doing all the heavy lifting in Batman v Superman on his character. I mean, you can tell he was doing it all. Zack was like, "Oh, this is cool," or "This is cool," do this and do that, and Ben Affleck's like, "Okay, so how do I make that into a performance?" And he did the best he could. So I don't think it's I don't think for Zack Snyder he's the best guy for doing IP of this nature for him. If he wants to go remake the Magnificent Seven Samurai, Battle Beyond the Stars with his Netflix Rebel Moon story, I'm like, okay, go for it, do your thing. When it comes to superheroes, this is a guy that needs to understand what a hero is first before he should even tackle superheroes, and he doesn't.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't cut anybody off because I get constantly accused of it, even though, I don't know, when I don't speak for like 10 minutes, it always seems like when I get accused of it. But anyway, you're done talking, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure.
When have I ever accused you of that?
No, it's just like there's like 3 or 4 people in the chat who always do it, and it just pisses me off because I'm like, I'll sit here and not say a fucking word for 10 fucking minutes. The first time I say it, and then they bitch at me about it. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna start cutting everybody off. Then fuck it.
Like, who do you want to
wait
cut
till
off?
the 2 guys in the chat dominate.
Right? Jason Gray says $2.
Tom, I'm cutting you off right now.
Yep.
Okay, cut me off now. Now you cut me
Not
off.
during a super chat, Mike.
Oh shoot. Okay, sorry. I got
Be back in a
Time and a place.
Jason Gray sends in $2 Australian. Says $2 dues towards the power bill. Thank you, sir. Hopefully I didn't muck up the accent too bad.
Yeah, and that is most appreciated because power is getting expensive these days.
It is. I'm not even kidding. I made the joke the other day. A few people thought it was a pretty good joke, but I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not even kidding. Have you seen bills lately? Like, Christ. Doc Holliday is here, and he says, Director of Kong asked Zack to disavow the review bombing and refuse to call out the crazy. Ah, yeah. See, this is one thing I do remember. And this is what I was talking about was, yes, there is some things that the Snyder guys did, and I'm not saying anybody here in this room or on the chat did this. There was a lot of in the crew that decided they were going to go after Godzilla versus Kong for no apparent reason. None that I could find other than they were just trying to piss off Warner Brothers and HBO Max. And it's like, you guys are now starting to act like little spoiled children. Stop. But then again, the article then turned around and accused those same fans of attacking Wonder Woman 84. And I'm like, when? Like, nobody saw Wonder Woman 84. Like, they didn't even have the time or the effort to fucking go after it. For what reason? They claim it was because Johns was one of the writers on it. Like, I don't remember this. This is news to me. So, again, that's where I said somewhere in the middle, I think the truth lies on the whole thing. But yeah, the Kong versus Godzilla thing was one of the few head scratchers in the whole endeavor that really just kind of made me question what you guys were up to with that one. Your Muslim uncle says, can we move on to Elf Reboot now?
I'm going to interrupt that. We the show's over. Time to.
I haven't heard anything on the updates lately, but I know they're moving along over there at Shout. We're getting that figure soon too. So yeah. All hail Star Trek Orville says, how to fix DCEU. Bring in Bruce Timm to consult and use the DCAU as a template to restart from the ground up. Maybe if it was the crew that was making the animated series 10, 15 years ago, but a lot of those guys are just not what they used to be. I don't even know if Bruce Timm is the same guy he used to be. I know, Script, you and I have had this conversation a couple times. I think he stepped away. Andre, anything to say on that?
Yeah, I don't think that Bruce Timm is who he once was. I really don't. Yeah. It's very dangerous to bring in people who once had a huge hit or that they were perfect for something 30 years ago, because they might not be today. I'm going to give up one example. One of my all-time favorite series is the British political satire sitcom Yes Minister and its follow-up series Yes Prime Minister. Those series, if you haven't seen them, do yourself a favor, seek them out and watch them. You won't regret it. They are the best political satires ever made, and they still hold up to this day, even though they were made in the late 70s and early 80s. They're still relevant. All of the principles in there are true. It was written by just two guys. And then in the past decade, so this would be like almost 30 years after their original run of Yes Minister, they did a reboot. They did a new series of Yes Minister that they themselves wrote. You would think that this would be good, but it wasn't. It's an absolute disaster. It may be the worst reboot I have ever seen. And it was literally the exact same guys, and they had completely lost it. Whatever they had 30 years before, they didn't have any more. And I fear that if you were to get Bruce Timm in to do Alf today, the exact same, it's not Alf, I just saw the message.
Wow. Wow.
But although I
Wow,
would say,
Andre.
I would love just to see Bruce Timm do an Alf reboot, just to see Mexican Ironman's reaction to it.
Wow.
That would be
Anyway,
Andre, there is a movement of Alf terrorists that is growing on YouTube and Twitter and the fandom fellowship gathering, whatever the crawling are. Andre, you must stand with me against these Alf terrorists.
He
that would
loves
otherwise.
hate. Why would he?
I love Alf.
Oh,
You're the only one who doesn't.
But anyway, point is that if you were to bring Bruce Timm back, whether it be for Alf or for Batman today, I think you would be disappointed by the results. In fact, I think it would be better to bring him back for Alf.
We're kind of going to get to see, because he's working on that Dark Knight series, is he not?
Yeah, and I'm
and they got that Batman revival as well.
Exactly, and I'm not excited, to say it lightly. I'm afraid of how disappointed we're all going to be. Like, some people, they can pick something up 20, 30 years later without dropping a beat. Others can't.
It's hard.
And we still don't know where Tim is.
Not everybody can be Mike Judge.
Exactly. Not everyone can be Mike Judge. Mike Judge is an example there.
I think that's because he isolates himself from Hollywood, to be honest with you.
That's why I started doing it.
Because people have asked that. He's like, he kind of comes off like quiet and weird sometimes. Like, because he doesn't hang out in Hollywood. I think he still lives in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he's ever lived in Hollywood, to be honest with you. He just he doesn't get into that shit. He's not into the celebrity thing. And I think he loathes it without even having to say it.
That could be.
Last I knew, he still lived in Texas. I don't know if he still does, but
or Albuquerque or something.
Or New Mexico. That's it. Sorry, yes, you're right. New Mexico. Yeah,
one of the places where Bugs Bunny should have taken a
left. Yes. Thank you for correcting me on that, Andre. You're right. It's New Mexico. He's from and lives in. Yeah. And then we've got this one already, but you never know. We'll have to see how his more recent work pans out. But I think Andre's right, and as I said, Script and I have already kind of had that conversation a few times on Mead. Kevin Dorr says, what actress are they going to pick to play Kane? We don't know that yet. We don't. But I'm sure that we could think of a few. Who played him in the movie that came out a few years back?
Is that like a joke on reboots that they're going to gender swap Solomon Kane?
No. They were
actually says actress.
Oh, he did say actress. Oh, fuck! I didn't even pick that. Oh, I don't think that's going to happen, Kevin Dorr, but very clever indeed.
Very droll.
Very droll. No, I hope the hell not. No, it'll be an actor. Don't worry about that.
It will be an actor who no one knows, because first they have to have Netflix to formally approve of everything they want to do with Conan. Only then are they even going to start Conan. And then Conan has to come out. It has to be a hit. it should ideally have like a few of the Conan related spin-offs coming out first. Then is when they can start talking about Solomon Kane, and then they're going to have to find a creative lead for that, and only then will they even start casting. So we were way early for Solomon Kane casting talk yet, is what I'm saying.
Right.
So hold your horses on that one.
It's going to be Taylor Quiche. I'm kidding. We got Duran who sent us a super sticker. Let me see if I can see what that is. Did anybody save it in the thing? No, they did not. But Mexican Iron Man did gift 5 Midnight's Edge memberships. Thank you so much. And so did Big Daddy MRI. Thank you so much. And Billy D has been a member for 16 months at the Midnighter level. Thank you for that. And then we've got, hang on one second here. Rod Thunderheart.
Wow, that was the longest one ever. I almost had time to go make espresso.
Who sends in a toonie and says Zack Snyder is style over substance and plot. FYI,
And
yes.
character.
And character in some cases, yes. Yes, indeed. And you know, that's funny. You mentioned that disappointment you had with that revival just a little bit ago, Andre, with your expectations going into it. It was kind of the same thing with me and Zack Snyder. Like, I loved Watchmen. I thought that Dawn of the Dead surprised the piss out of me. I'm like, I went in expecting to hate it because I love. Let me put it this way: I hate zombie movies and shows. The only zombie movies and shows I like are the Romero movies. That's it. I'll watch the Return of the Living Dead because they're basically parodies and offshoots of those, and that's it. Like, basically, as long as they're Romero zombie movies, I'm in. Otherwise, I don't like them. But I actually like Dawn of the Dead remake. I was surprised. 300 was pretty cool. So I'm like, you know what? This guy's
300 is a work of art.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm like, this guy's gonna make Superman? Fuck it, I'm in. I was excited. Do you realize that Henry Cavill is Superman when he's got that, he's pushing back on the wall or whatever, on that safe or whatever, and it's all busted in? That was my fucking screensaver for a year.
Wow.
Before the movie came out.
Wow.
I was so hyped for that movie. And boy, was I disappointed. And then BBS really was a kick in the nuts. Because I'm like, all right, now he's going to fix it.
Well, I mean, that's the worst pace thing to do, is to have your own guy fix something that he broke. And then the other part too, what got us onto like kind of precursor to this whole article and the Zack Snyder thing, is that I saw on Business Insider that they were reporting that the Zack Snyder Justice League on HBO Max was in the top 10 for like so many quarters or what have you. But when you take a look at the article and you read where they're getting the source of that information, it's from our good old friend Parrot Analytics, which is not a reliable source at all. And so that hits first, last week, and then this article hits to try and, I guess, circumvent and counteract that, as well as who knows what else they want to achieve out of that. It's all kind of weird. The beats that are going on with
you know what kind of makes
film.
that null and void anyway script is that when the Snyder Cut came out, they didn't have anything to compete with it.
Yeah.
It's not like HBO Max had a bunch of new shows or anything.
Oh no, but their article was actually tracking over the past year.
No, okay, but still, like, they still haven't really had outside of movies. They haven't really dropped any big shows or anything on HBO Max yet. Speaking of, there was a trailer that just dropped, Andre.
Yeah, there was indeed.
Did you want to talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah, because
I didn't watch it because I don't give a shit.
Game of Thrones, and how after Dumb and Dumber, Benioff and Weiss completely botched, according to everyone, season 8, according to everyone with the brain, season 7 and 8, and according to everyone who read the books, everything from season 5 onwards. They botched to varying degrees, and that kind of like killed the whole brand in a way. And they had like 5 prequel series. One prequel pilot was filmed at major expense by S.D. Clarkson, and then they scrapped it because it was too woke. That was the reason. So even then they realized. But then they have made another pilot that actually made it to series. It's being released now in just a few weeks. And only now, in the last hour, the first trailer for Game of Thrones, The House of Dragon, the Targaryen-centered spin-off series, was released. And in between you guys talking, most notably when Tom was talking about what happens when when he's talking, well, that's when I was busy watching the trailer. So yeah, I already saw the trailer for House of Dragon, and I don't know if any of you guys have had the chance to check it out behind the scenes here yet. But if you have, now's the time to share your thoughts. And if not, then go check it out while I give my thoughts.
All right, we're back. Tom, is there a link? Where is it?
I'm grabbing the link for you guys. I don't care. I did not watch Game of Thrones. I'm glad
I
I didn't
did.
waste my time. So
I watched all of it
there's a link for you.
multiple times, and then God, I was pissed off.
I actually had a source on some of the Game of Thrones stuff, and I would just have to throw it to Andre and whoever because I hadn't half the time I wouldn't even know what the hell they were talking about.
All right, I will be the.
I don't know what a Targaryen is, or
Oh my God!
Well, those
like
are
when
the
we-
albino-looking.
This is like when we try to have a deep. This is like when we
Emilia
try to have-
Clarke is a Targaryen.
We can't talk about this just like I can't talk about Tom Cruise with Tom. So hold on. I'm gonna go look. I'll be right back.
I know a little bit more about Tom Cruise. I mean,
Script, how about you? Did you have a chance to check it out yet, or are you behind the scenes checking it out already?
He stepped away. He'll be right
I
back.
say he's actually BRB.
No, okay, cool. Why don't you guys, you as well, Tom, because again, this is a prequel, so this does not assume that you must have seen what comes later. Go check it out and see if this is something that you're
All
interested
right,
in.
I'm watching it right now.
Yeah, perfect. Meanwhile, I'll share my thoughts. I hate it. And the reason is because this is high fantasy because of all of the dragons, whereas I like my fantasy to be low fantasy. I mean, the costumes look fine and everything like that, but I don't care about any Game of Thrones prequel, really. Doesn't matter what it is, but just because it's a prequel and it's all going to lead right up to season 8 anyway, then who cares? And it's a prequel that's filled with dragons. Now, I've never been one for dragons in films. So to me, it's like, it looks like generic Eragon. It looks like you have remade Eragon today. And also, this series has some level of wokeness in it because the showrunners, they recently came out and they bragged about how they race-bent one of the families in there, so there wouldn't be too many white people on the screen in the name of diversity and what have you not. Now, that's neutral, I guess. I don't have any strong feelings about that one way or the other. George R.R. Martin, the creator of it all, he had kind of like this snide remark, like, oh, I wish I had thought about that, but oh well, 20 years too late. So I'm guessing from the snark that he wasn't too fond of the idea. But the biggest issue to me is that it just looks so generic, so Eragon with all the dragons, and then of course you're going to have some battle of the sexes in there with this woman that... And I don't know who she is or what this thing is with the story, but then she's like, no, I want to sit on the throne. But you're a woman and you can't. It's for a man. And then you have that whole thing in there as well. So I know that both of the guys behind this are really talented people. I know some of the things that they have been attached to before. I've read some of the scripts for some of their unproduced stuff. I know these are talented guys. I don't know that they were paired with the right property here. I think that they were given like a Mission Impossible, make a prequel to Game of Thrones after the series has already run itself completely into the ground. I don't know that this is going to be the thing to bring people back again. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Has anyone else had the time to check out the trailer in the meantime?
Yeah, I just watched The Ring of Whammons. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
How excited were you? Again, you don't need to have seen the previous Game of Thrones for this, since it takes place, I think 300 years earlier or something.
Whammon powers, woo! Dragons.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I got out of it. Nah, nothing.
Yeah,
the dragons look cool, I guess. I mean,
yeah, if one is into dragons.
Yeah.
As I explained, I'm not. I've never been.
That's about it. Looks like Mike's still watching it, so we'll wait for his response. I don't think Script Doctor's back yet either. So
I'm back, but I just have no interest in seeing Game of Thrones stuff. Yeah. Again, like when the very first episode of Game of Thrones hit all those years ago, and people were so obsessed with it, I said, I'm not going to watch it because I will not make it between the seasons. I will be frustrated and anxious all the time. So I'm going to abstain and wait till its last season airs, then I'll binge it. And thankfully, I didn't have to worry about binging it because so many people are talking about how terrible Game of Thrones became. So I have no attachment or interest in Game of Thrones.
I want to hear what you guys have to say in the chat. So I'm gonna set up a poll right now, so that you guys can give your vote. Are you excited for the House of Dragon?
Andre learned how to do a poll, evidently.
Yeah. Well, it's been a little while since I learned it, but
I mean, production-wise, I mean, it looks like they spent some money on it. Story-wise, okay, I kind of get the story from. I'll give it that. I at least know what the story is kind of going to be compared to, like, say, Ring of Power. You know, like I was just making fun of the Lord of the Rings Amazon series, but no, at least I can tell you what this show is going to be about, pretty much. Even though I don't know shit about the series to begin with, but
I'm back.
All right, let's hear from another fan because I got nothing.
Twice.
All right.
And I muted you guys, so I have no idea what's been said while I've been gone. Number one, there's a shitload of dragons. Number two, it's weird to see a black dudes with blonde hair.
Yeah, that would be the race band people, the ones that the showrunners were so proud about changing because they couldn't have any more white people on screen.
Really? It's kind of distracting. I mean, I don't know.
Anyway, I've just created a poll now, so let's see what you guys have to say.
That's all Mikey's got to say after watching it twice? Really? I had more to say than that. At least I said dragons.
I'm just not impressed.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
Does it feel like Game of Thrones?
No. Well, not really, because most of Game of Thrones' success had to do with story, and I think this is a lot of flash. And I think I don't know who's running the show, but I'm getting the vibe that they think the success of Game of Thrones is about dragons and fire and shit like that, and that's not really what it was about. It was about like storylines and following the story. I don't know. I saw it twice, and I'm kind of underwhelmed, I got to tell you. I don't even know what it's about. I know it's about dragons, and I know it's about a chick wanting to be queen, and she should be king, and there should be a king, and then there's a black guy with blonde hair, and then there's more dragons. And I saw it twice, and I don't know what to say right now. I'm underwhelmed, and I'm the target market, so I don't know what to say.
And for those that were unhappy with the choices in the polls, we don't deal with like wobbling back and forth and being unsure. I mean, are you going to see it or aren't you? I mean, there's do or do not. There is no try.
Try. Yeah. I mean,
shoot.
What the hell
Hello?
are you doing, Mike?
I'm having some kind of computer problem. I got to restart my computer.
All right, no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, he got Alf in his computer.
Sounded like you got zapped or something, man.
Something's wrong.
I'd say. All right. Well, he'll be back. In the meantime, while you guys are voting, let's see what you had to say in these super chats. John Eben Bear says, spoiler for Mortal Kombat 2021. Do you think it was a mistake that they didn't fight Shang Tsung at the end of the movie? What if the second movie is not good and we don't get to see Shao Kahn? Oh, that movie was successful enough and was so cheap that I bet you they're going to make the next 2 or 3 like back to back to back to back.
I'm surprised they haven't done anything more because
I think they're filming them right now.
Universe.
I was sorry, Andre, but I do think they're in the midst of working on the sequel now, from what I know, because that first one was a huge success for them. And even though it wasn't like a blockbuster hit, it only cost like $20 million to make.
Yeah. Yeah, and at that lower budget, it was a massive success. So, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, I haven't heard anything recently, but that sometimes no news is good news,
Exactly.
as Andre and I will remind you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like these guys really want to do a good job, so I'm sure they're taking a lot of things into consideration.
Yeah. And in terms of like not fighting Shang Tsung, I think it was deliberate because they know that there already is a Mortal Kombat movie where that happened. And they are suffering from like this remake curse where you have to change, or where they decide that we're just going to change some stuff up just to change stuff up, just so that we can differentiate ourselves from what came before, although in this regard, we probably shouldn't.
Yeah, and Script read the script, and the script was better. So
the script before Dave Callahan got his hands on it was better, yeah.
So hopefully they get themselves back on course, because I didn't hate the movie, but I could see where like the improvements in the whatever Dave did to it, ruined what could have been a much better film in some people's eyes, I'm sure. Because
I hated that the animated Mortal Kombat Scorpion movie was better, and it was an animation.
Yeah, I think there was just a few things, if they would have just a couple of things that script really hit on when the movie first came out, when we discussed it, that are in the original script that were changed in the movie. I think if they would have retained that instead of changing those things, that would have definitely helped the film overall. But I didn't.
Dave Callahan invented the whole birthmarks being transferred thing. That was just a
medallion. And changed the ending too, didn't he? Because originally in the original ending, he does turn into Scorpion. And I said that would have fixed the fucking movie.
Yeah, in the original ending, he is Scorpion. They changed the opening, but both openings I think were pretty good. The first opening is like a black slave who fights in actual combat and wins the medallion, and then that goes down, or he dies and someone else wins the medallion from him, and that goes down through the generations and is handed off to the now Scorpion guy. But one of the key pivotal points of Mortal Kombat, and you can learn about this this test from Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which is that the movie has to be centered around the actual tournament. The moment you take the tournament out of it, you get a bad movie, because there's no other story really in Mortal Kombat itself that warrants any really interest, because the stakes of the tournament are greater than anything of the stakes outside of the tournament. And Annihilation was like, okay, so the tournament's over and now they're just going to merge the worlds anyways. It's like, okay, you're now just making the whole tournament useless if they could have done that from the beginning. So it should always be about, the tournament itself, and that where they kind of misstepped with the 2021 remake. It was not about the tournament. The tournament hadn't happened yet. It wasn't even really announced. I don't think. It was just foreboding in the background. So,
unfortunately, I think this movie suffers from setting up its sequels before this movie was
figured out.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like it has that issue, right? I mean, I didn't hate it, but I can't argue with anybody's criticisms with it either. So, and John Eben Bear agrees with you, Andre, that Scorpion's Revenge is the best Mortal Kombat movie.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Absolutely.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard very good things from anybody who's seen it. The Last Millennial's in the house. It says, hey guys, how would Warner Brothers get full ownership of Harry Potter and legally get Rowling out of the picture? Would they have to pay her big bucks like $25 billion? Yeah, but I don't see her getting out of the picture anytime soon. And
Yeah,
last
the
I heard,
only-
she's not the one that has a problem with her. So
Yeah, and the only way to get her out of the picture is to completely buy her out, and yeah, then we are talking billion-dollar amounts here.
Not only that, you'd have to buy out the rights internationally because she registered everything in the UK first, and so there's that too. Like the only way Rowling's going to be not associated with Harry Potter, unfortunately, is when she passes away.
right,
It may not happen for many years.
And then her kids will be until it's public domain, basically, or her heirs,
Well, that's
whoever.
that's the weird thing with regards to intellectual property. Transferring that to your children is tricky. There's legal ways to do it before you pass
Well, that's
away.
where they
Once you
create
pass
a,
away, that's where they have issues. Yeah.
They usually create an estate situation, right, or whatever.
Yeah, they build an estate based on the property so it can be passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't exclude them from the eventuality of public domain, which is a dicey aspect, because if it's public domain, everybody makes it, and you get tons of derivatives and things that suck. But if it's not public domain, sometimes it can never be made again because the rights holders just don't want to expand upon it anymore. It's really a case-by-case basis, so we'll see what happens.
But just on this note, though, I hate to say this because I know it makes Star Wars look bad, but I would almost think that 25 billion might be a little low. Maybe not. I mean, it's because you got to go by the fact that they've had how many movies? They had 10 of them, I think it was.
What you have
At
to
least
go
8.
by is
At least 8,
isn't
yeah.
what has been before. You have to go by how much can you still milk out of it.
Oh, you can milk the fuck out of Harry Potter.
Yeah, I know. You obviously still can, but you can
forget the
you can milk
Fantastic
10 movies
Beasts.
that already are there.
Ignore the Fantastic Beasts, because that's the thing, is it's at the point where you could I can't believe there's not a Harry Potter HBO Max series in the fucking works where it's starting all over again. Because I'm not kidding, because this could be a fucking 10-year series easy.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, one of the things with the valuation of something like Harry Potter is, like, you take a look, what's the current merchandising returns, what's the current book sales, what's the current media, like physical media, DVD sales, streaming sales, all this other stuff. And then you do its speculative evaluation over a 10-year period based off the past 10 years, and you do all that stuff. So I think, maybe 25 billion might be on the lower end of things, giving its potential.
More 30 to 40 billion, actually. And I know that dwarfs Star Wars, but people got to remember, Star Wars was not in the same place as this. That's what I'm saying. This is an active franchise that's had many, many films. Even if the last Fantastic Beast didn't work out, there's outside reasons that didn't work, right? They're still clamoring for more of this stuff. If they made a sequel tomorrow with the original cast, it would be a huge fucking film. If they rebooted it, I don't know, but that's a whole other conversation to be had here. But I feel like you're right. I feel like it's a franchise that's worth at least more than 25 billion. No, I don't think anybody's going to pay that much for it right now.
Yeah, Fantastic Beasts has not done as much damage to Harry Potter as, like, the prequel trilogy did to Star Wars.
Exactly.
At its peak, so.
Well, not just that, Star Wars didn't have 10 movies in between there either. Like, they kept making Harry Potter movies. Like, it's only been a few years since the last Harry Potter movie. I mean, it may be closing in on 5-10 years now, but it's still not that far off. So, I mean, it's still a viable franchise. They've had the 3 Fantastic Beast movies. I'm sure the books still sell. So they had that play that came out not too long ago that was fairly successful. So, yeah, and now we're rejoined by Mr. Mexican Iron Man. Your computer now working, sir?
I'm convinced it was some plot by these ALF terrorists that got my cables all mixed up. And then when I turned right to grab my coffee and my foot got stuck on one of these cables here, it was all some kind of plot.
I'm sorry, Mike.
So it wasn't static electricity from the fur of the ALF dolls.
Oh my God, no, Andre!
We're coming to get you, Mike. Ha 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 ha. STR Red Wolf says, so Andre, you're saying you should have made that left turn in Albuquerque.
No, I'm not saying anything. Bugs Bunny said that he should have done that. That's what I
made
know.
a wrong turn at Albuquerque, Knock.
And I guess Bugs Bunny must know what he's talking about.
Robert Montoya says, Chapek and Zaslav are destined to lead their companies against each other in a bloodbath. With both focusing on Marvel and DC, it may be soon. I think Chapek will win.
Yeah, well, first they have to. Here's like the thing, though. If both are victorious in what they are trying to do, there's
Same.
eventually going to be a head-on fight between them. But as it is right now, like in the Mortal Kombat game, before you get to the end boss, you have to fight all of the other little bosses and all the other contestants first, right?
Yep.
That is where the two of them are right now. They have all of these other battles to fight first. Now, Chapek, he already defeated the first mini boss in Peter Rice, but he still has a ways to the top and many, many more enemies to beat before he can get there. Zaslav, he's closer to the top, so he can start taking on the Disney Corporation much earlier. The problem is that he's stuck at like the ghost level. He has like Fight Shang Tsung that takes on all of these different forms. That's all the different problems that he's inherited in terms of DC.
Can I actually help you fix this analogy a little bit?
Yeah, go for it. But you see where I'm going with, right?
But I think you're missing something here. We got to remember that even though we may be rooting for Zaslav in certain respects, he is actually the big bad boss over at Warner Brothers in comparison to Chapek. Chapek is fighting his way up. Zaslav is fighting people off.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he doesn't have to. He has different things he needs.
Exactly. They're completely different positions, but they have the same goal in mind, right? Like that's the thing. But Zaslav has a completely different set of tools at his command than Chapek does. So to me, looking at the overall thing, like at the hierarchy of things, Chapek, like I said, is fighting his way up that ladder to the big boss, to whomever that may be. And the big boss might be Bob Iger in just the public eye. But for Zaslav, he is the big bad boss, right? He's got to fix that in the grand scheme of Warner Brothers right now. And I know Chapek isn't loved either over at Disney, but Chapek don't have the powers that Zaslav does. You look at Zaslav the wrong way, he can fire you. Chapek can't. To where Zaslav, he's trying to establish himself as the good king, but he's also got to cut some heads off in the process.
Yeah, the problem that he has, though, that Chapek doesn't have to the same extent, is that Marvel is in a downward slide, and Chapek, he has to stop the bleed and he has to fix Marvel, but Marvel was in a great place not too long ago, and it can become again. The goodwill is there, as evident as shown by Spider-Man No Way Home. The problem for Zaslav is that DC honestly hasn't been working out since the Nolan days.
But for him, the beauty of it is they don't have to rely on DC like basically Disney has kind of been relying on Marvel right now. But he knows, he's smart enough to know that DC should be keeping the entire ship afloat. Even though there's other things that can, he wants to get it to that level so that he can take more chances with other things, as I believe
exactly
what I'm getting out of.
And that's a very sound plan. The problem is that he has that's one hell of a construction job that needs to be done, because it's not the DC thing isn't an easy fix. I mean, that whole thing is a complete disaster, and
it's like trying to build a building on
clusterfuck.
Yeah, it's trying to build a skyscraper onto a foundation that constantly is collapsing on itself before you can
exactly. He has the materials. The materials for building a skyscraper is right there. He has no material because that's all there. The problem is that the lot of land that he's been allotted, it's quicksand.
Yeah. And actually, I would say Zaslav is more like Shao Kahn. Like he's up. You don't want to fuck with him.
Yeah,
like, I'm not kidding.
This is exactly right.
I'm not kidding when I said I think he's keeping Hamada around more just in case he wants to fire somebody later on than anything else.
Yeah, I still stand by it that I'm sure that he wanted to rehire Anne Sarnoff just so that he could fire her again.
Yes.
and we know that one of the reasons why Emmerich was kept on was that so that he could have someone to scream at, and he did scream at him and explode at, and even when that got too far, then he got fired as well. So I hope that Zaslav got
because here's the thing I've heard about Zaslav,
because that's what he was there for.
He's like a koala in the rain. He's got zero fucks to give if you're not performing. He has fired his friends Like, this guy will not fuck around from what I've heard. I mean, he's not an asshole from what I've heard at the same time, but he's also not like, he's a nonsense kind of guy. He's very keep your eye on the road. And if you're in my way, sorry if I like you, but get the fuck out of the way. I am trying to do this thing. And if you're just going to be a speed bump, then I'm sorry, you're going to get run over. That's kind of the way he is, to where Chapek is navigating through fucking, you got to imagine what kind of infested waters here to try and get to his goal. It's a maze of fuckery, because Disney is such a flea infested fucking organization right now that
he's trying to fumigate it. It's
exactly
taking a while. It's time.
Yeah, and you don't know, you can't just start blasting either, because that's the problem that Chapek has, is he's going to create more enemies the farther he goes up the ladder. Zaslav don't give a fuck if you like him or not. Like, that's where he's at right now. That's kind of what it is. But he's also still got to make friends within the industry, because he did see the mistakes that were made on the AT&T side of things, right? And that's why they brought him in, because AT&T was like, we don't know what we're doing here. This is not our domain. We don't do this. We carry the content, but we don't create the content.
And also what they did was that they didn't pay the proper respect to the incumbents in the industry. And they said this, like, they felt hurt and betrayed that Killar hadn't reached out to the most important gatekeepers and stuff like that, just to show respect and offer their tribute in the best Godfather style.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that.
Their feelings.
I'm glad you brought that analogy in, because that's kind of what Zaslav is then, right? He's kind of like a new Godfather. He's a new consulary, whatever you want to look at it, in that standing of the regime, to where now he has come in and he knows what he's got to do. He's not like Killar. He's not like AT&T. He knows how to play this game. He's been a part of the game for almost 40 years. I think 30 years almost, actually. Somewhere in there, 30 to almost 40 years. So he's been in this for a long time. He knows exactly how to play the Hollywood side of things. He knows exactly how to play the political side of things. He knows exactly how to play the business side of things. It's going to be an interesting maneuver to see how he wades through these waters compared to Chapek, which is a completely different system. I know we're kind of going off into the woods in this.
Well, Zaslav is way more familiar on the TV and network side of things. The Hollywood stuff, there's a lot of overlap, but there's also a social structure there that I think he's still figuring out, and he's figuring out pretty fast, because some of the recent terminations he's made have been quite profound. The other part too is, like, if you're talking about like the war between Disney and Warner Brothers with regards to Marvel and DC,
right?
The first thing that Warner Brothers needs to do is they have to sort of squash the terms of like Burtonverse, Snyderverse, Ayerverse, and those things, because those are director-driven properties when the brand is DC. The brand has to come before the director, because the directors and writers, they rotate out like a carousel. And you can't have a dedicated following to just the one. You have to have that following to the brand. There's the reason why the MCU trumpets usually the name of the film that's being released, is because it's the brand of the MCU. It's why, like, you don't have a Taika Waititi verse. You don't have a Whedon verse in the Avengers and all that stuff. You don't want those. You want the title characters. You want the IP to basically be the thing people talk about, and not the person that's directing it all the time. Because what happens when that director quits, decides to do something else, or heaven forbid passes away, and you banked on everything being about that director?
Well, and Zaslav
has nothing left.
Well, and that's where
IPs last forever. So
yeah, that's where Zaslav knows what he's doing in respect to, he needs a Kevin Feige. He needs a ship leader. He needs a captain. He needs somebody to run DC basically like a TV show, right? Where he oversees all these different elements. That's what he needs. He's got that idea correct. And again, they're two different animals though right now. That's I agree with script 100% on that. That's a great observation, and that's exactly what I was going to basically say too at the end there. So yeah. And then we had David Yuri, who says, I would sell my daughter for Daenerys' return. Well, you may get your wish at some point, but I doubt it. We'll see. See how well these shows turn out.
And also, I would just say that there is some prices are just too much to pay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Rod Thunderheart sends in another toonie and says, "Sorry, I forgot to mention Script Doctor." Hey,
Rod.
he said, "Sorry." STR Red Wolf says, "You needed a no thank you. I will write something better myself option." How many do they even give you more than 2 options in our polls here? I don't know.
No, you can make as many as you want.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, let's see how the poll is doing.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see here. At 300 and almost 400 votes, we've got, let's see here.
We have 401 votes, actually. And
the
question was, are you excited for House of Dragon? To which the possible answers were, yes, dragons rule. And 9% answered that. And then the next option is, no, it leads to season 8. 38% answered that. And the winner is, hell no, it's too low, with 54%.
So that answers that one. Indeed. Lord. Well, I feel sorry for HBO on that. Then Darius Moonchild sent us a super sticker since I got it up here. I'm pretty sure it's popcorn. Yes, it is. Thank you for that. Let's see here. Big Daddy MRI is also celebrating. Oh no, that was just from the earlier, but thank you for being a member for a year, Big Daddy MRI. So technically, you are celebrating your anniversary. Thank you again for gifting all the memberships as well. Mecha J says, with the House of Dragons and Rings of Power trailers now released, the fantasy genre never looked so cringe. Ooh, this is why we need Conan to come along and save it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the kind of things we really need to happen right now, is like a few woke versions of things like in a certain genre to come out, and then something to contradict it that isn't woke, to show them that, yes, we want this, but we don't want the woke version. And I'm glad that's why like Top Gun and stuff like that are doing well in comparison, why they're scrambling to come up with excuses for Thor Love and Thunder, for instance.
Exactly. And good luck with coming up with excuses for that. Don't need them.
And while on that note, do check out our recent Thor video, where we talk just about all that business. Master Clockwork says, if you like dragons, I recommend How to Train Your Dragon movie trilogy instead. Got more heart and soul than this fast food entertainment.
I have heard good things about those movies.
I've seen the first one.
I've never seen them.
First one was all right. See here, we got DeWall in the house. How you doing? Sends in 10 and says, dragon. No dragons in Game of Thrones unless they were hiding behind the drakes. Dragons have wings and 4 legs, or are serpentine without. Giant lizardy fire-breathing bats are not dragons. Oh, I did not know there was a distinction.
Isn't drake also a form of duck?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Very astute. DeWall then says, everyone of these groups and people that make the shows with drakes instead of dragons, but still claim they're dragons, just means they haven't reviewed the source material. Oh, see.
Oh. I see. Now that I know that drakes and ducks are the same thing, because I remember this, I want to see a giant duck that breathes fire.
Yes.
I'd watch that movie.
Duckosaurus.
It's always a Spinosaurus with you.
You're giving up my fucking secret.
Attack of the fire-breathing ducks, or mallards. Mallards would be a more catchier thing. Yeah, Attack of the fire-breathing mallards.
But we're still going to call it Duckosaurus in the movie, right?
Someone can mention a Duckosaurus.
Yes. Kind of like graboids is a much better word than tremors. Who's going to call them tremors? They're graboids.
They make tremors.
Exactly. Gerald Armstrong says, George R.R. Martin deserves his share of the blame. Yes. In fact, I heard HBO is so pissy with him because of some of this shit. Because I think they put a lot of blame on him too. Not just D&D, they put some blame on him too for that final season. Because they were just going off of his notes.
Well, they could have done better, but even with that, he could have given them a few books by the time they finished.
That too.
I mean, look at other writers who are able to pump out like a book a month almost, it seems like.
That's actually, to be fair, that's kind of because I have zero fucks to give in the no horses in this race. That's kind of what I had heard from the one source, was that HBO and Warner were more upset that he hadn't really done anything with books in the meantime. He hadn't done shit for Game of Thrones. It's been this biggest fucking franchise in the world, and George R.R. Martin sitting there on his fucking thumbs the whole goddamn time.
And honestly, he should have finished the 2 final books by the time they got to season 7 at the very least, and he hadn't. We still haven't seen them, and we're probably never going to see certainly the last one.
Yeah, they were very upset that he didn't capitalize on it in any way, shape, or form, and they feel like he kind of left them in a lurch here. So between him and D&D, yeah. Then Hyper Guyber 2 says, the only Snyder I care about, is Dark Schneider. STR Red Wolf script repeat after me. Go ahead.
Mon canard est un fou?
I have no idea what you just said. I just know it sounded very French.
Hey, I don't want anyone talking smack like that to Script. Script's my friend. Script, you don't take that.
What did he even say?
I don't know, but it sounded like Script was making an insult at himself somehow. I'm just trying to protect Script. I'm running security today here.
You're running security today?
Well, since my duck is in FU.
Ram Bam 3000 says, but Tom, does the Duckosaurus do karate with nunchucks? No, it wouldn't be karate with nunchucks, because karate is empty hand. And Duckosaurus already can breathe fire. So what does he need fucking karate for?
And he can tread water quite effectively.
Exactly. Yeah. Isn't that cool that he has both a water and a fire power?
Well, yeah. Do you see many dragons, just treading water? I've never seen a dragon tread water, but I've seen lots of ducks. And then you just add in the fire breathing element, and then it can fly, can tread water, and breathe fire. Man, that's a dangerous animal right there.
Got too close to Duckosaurus. That's why.
Ducks are evolved from dinosaurs, so you're like halfway
That's
there
true.
already.
Yeah.
This is very true. But Nunchuckosaurus, you cheer for Nunchuckosaurus because everybody makes fun of his tiny arms. And he'll never be able to swing those nunchucks, but he's going to prove them wrong. So we're gonna start wrapping things up here. But yeah, it's been an interesting day. I want to thank Script and Mike for being here today. Andre, is there anything going on that we need to plug? I don't think there's going to be a 4K for you this afternoon. I got to double check with Valiant, but I think he's busy. And there's a few announcements, but nothing worth really jumping the gun for that we can't save for next week. So
hey, I got an announcement for later today.
Please.
Wait, I got to get ready. Go to someone else first. I got to get ready.
Well, I know what you're going to announce, but I got nothing in the pipeline on YouTube side of things.
And then yesterday, yes, I did jump in on Espanol. If you want to check that out, they had their say on this yesterday. So do check out Midnight's Edge Espanol. They don't just talk in Spanish. So even if you don't speak Spanish, don't let that scare you away. In fact, I've had a lot of people come to me in the past say that they were learning Spanish and this channel helped them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Paulie and the boys do a great job of that. Yeah, okay, I'm ready to promote now.
Okay. What do you got?
Okay.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Today is a big day. I rarely ever promote things that I do because I love coming on live streams and stuff. But Tom Conkle, who I found on this channel on Midnight Edge, the show that you guys did, I ended up becoming a big Uber fan of his movie. And today at 4:00 Pacific, 7:00 Eastern, we're going to talk about indie genre filmmaking. Now, whereas we are going to do some commentary on his actual film, it's going to be more of a showcase. This is going to be Indie Movie Making 101, where we're going to take his movie. And if any of you have dreams of doing your own movie, he's going to share the pitfalls of doing your own movie, the behind-the-scenes stuff, the nightmares, the tragedies, the ups and the downs, tricks of the trade. And then he's going to talk about his unique approach to movie making. He is an actor. He's a director, producer. It's happening 7:00. It's going to be on his channel, of course. And he's going to be giving away signed copies of his DVDs. But you got to go to the live stream and you got to participate. And you don't necessarily need a super chat to ask questions. So if any of you have scripts, you're working on stories, this is going to be a great opportunity where Tom's going to showcase things that he did in his movie making process and you can ask questions for yourself. Today, 7 o'clock Eastern, be there or be a square rabbit chicken.
All right, perfect. And also check
here's-
out Midnight's Edge Espanol
There's the
now when
link
we
right
are
there.
done with this, because a new bilingual video will be dropping. So so check out that right after you.
I think that's
there.
Yeah, that's from yesterday. So that was
When
where
the video is already up.
Well, it will be up in 7 minutes. So,
Yeah.
so pretty much as soon as we're done here. Just thank you to the mods again for your great work as always. And thank you guys for listening. And since Culture wasn't here today, I will say karate with infinite patience. And with that, Andre, I think it's time for some koalas in the rain, I think.
It is. So let's bring out the koalas and make them wet in the rain.
He said what?
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain, no fucks given. Koala, koala, koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain.
Sorry, Glade Ribbon says he missed a super chat. I know we got one of your super chats. Let's double check on that, Andre. Did we miss one?
Glade Riven, I'm checking
Yes.
behind the scenes here. We obviously can't leave any super chats behind
No.
here. So let us see.
And while we're
what to find.
while we're waiting for that, I got an image here sent from somebody who shows a Duckosaurus. If I can bring it up here.
Well, you guys
There
are
he
doing
is.
that. I got to run on a conference call real quick.
All right, no problem. Thank you, Mikey. There's your Duckosaurus. He's very pissy looking. Let's see here. Anything yet? And Eric K in the meantime says, "Great show as always." Thank you for that. And in the meantime, anybody else thinks we missed their chat? Let us know now.
Glade Riven,
Yes.
who said for $5 from previous missed super chat. Thoughts on Netflix buying Animal Logic, the Australian studio that brought us Lego Movie and more? I can't believe we missed that one, and that was a previous one that we missed as well. Okay, let's see if there's any more. The previous one was Hale, thoughts on Netflix buying Animal Logic. That's obviously an Australian animation studio. They did the Lego Movie. I'm not familiar with anything else they have done. And have you gentlemen any thoughts on them going on the spending spree?
Well,
they did terminate their local animation department, so I think they're just trying to outsource right now. They probably got a great deal for it, and probably have some. There might be some things in the pipe work that Netflix is expecting to really profit off of, because Netflix is changing its entire strategy over the next 2 years. They're going to be doing live broadcasts. They're going to be doing reality game shows with prize money. All these things they're throwing around town, what they're trying to do to sort of compete with the other streaming platforms and with traditional television.
Yeah, and to me, it says the same thing, that they're changing their strategy. They need more content, and they want to get someone kind of like in-house that can do it for them. And the best way to do it is by acquiring someone new, because then the department that they already had, either they weren't working or they were too expensive or both. And so they went and they acquired someone that obviously has their shit together, but who didn't mind being sold. So I see this as a potential win-win for both studios, but we shall see what it means in practice, and that's a little bit early to say.
Mm-hmm. I'm assuming they didn't really have so much to do with the creative side of things as they were just the doing the work. So on that respect, yeah, I think you guys are right on that observation, and I can't really add or subtract anything from that. So indeed, we'll have to wait and see how it works out. But yeah, I know they had got rid of their own department, and clearly this is the answer. So there you go. And I don't look like anybody else thinks we've missed any of theirs, but I do want to thank Gonzalo Bergali for gifting 5 more memberships. Thank you for that, Gonzalo, and everybody else who has gifted the memberships and is also a member. Thank you. You help the lights stay on here at Midnight's Edge more than you realize, because electricity is not cheap, kids. So with that, one more time.
It is time for the koalas in the
In
rain.
the rain.
Koalas in the rain, koalas in the rain. No fucks given, koala,